Chapter 566. The tavern instantly quieted down again. The players with quick reflexes and good memories had already realized that when the young master of the Han family said, "Give the staff to a certain someone," this certain someone was really a certain someone. It was just an empty reference, not an actual reference. In the end, everyone thought that the Han family young master's idea was to give the staff to Gu Fei, who Jian Nanyu was afraid of, for safekeeping. In the end, Gu Fei also thought that was what Jian Nanyu meant. At this time, the Han family young master's words were clear. As expected, the staff could be given to anyone but Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance, because they knew Jian Nanyu and Boundless Mang. Seeing that they were going to the exchange hall to buy Boundless Mang's staff, how could Jian Nanyu not be suspicious? So it was better to do this with unfamiliar faces. Before, the people who knew Jian Nanyu were talents. In the blink of an eye, the people they knew were useless, while the unfamiliar faces became talents. That was why it was said that everyone was born with talent. No one spoke for a moment, and they were all thinking about the feasibility of this plan. In the end, the owner of the staff, Boundless Mang, spoke first. "We can try." The Han family young master nodded. "After that, find someone you can trust, and everyone pool a large sum of money to give to him. He'll be responsible for buying the staff back." Boundless Mang nodded. It was easy to find someone who could be trusted. Many of Lan Yi's people were companions who had been with her in Moonlit Night City. Although everyone had split up, their relationship hadn't faded. Picking a cleric to do this was the most suitable choice. "There's no rush. Let's go sell the staff first. Then, the others can go to places like taverns to spread the news." "News of top-quality equipment always spreads very quickly," said the Han family young master. "Yes, yes." Many people nodded and prepared to do their work. Lan Yi was extremely depressed. He thought that this grandson really didn't treat him as an outsider. He didn't hold back when commanding his brothers. What was even more infuriating was that his brothers didn't have a stance at all. He had never seen them so obedient before. "Then I'll go and sell the staff now." He stood up in a daze. She was afraid that she would be attacked by Jian Nanyu if she acted alone, so she went to the auction house surrounded by a group of people. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even when he was in the limelight in Moonlit Night City, he didn't bring such a big group of people with him. In the auction house, Boundless Mang consigned her ideal magic staff for sale. The price was set at 1,800 gold, which was 200 gold less than the market price that Brother Yu and the other experienced players had estimated at 2,000 gold. It was said to reflect a kind of eagerness to sell. However, the problem was that if he was in a hurry to sell it, he should set a fixed price. For example, he could directly set a price of 1,800 gold. That would be even better. However, he obviously didn't dare to do this, as he was afraid that someone would really buy it. No matter how high you set it, you would still be afraid. Because the world was so big, there were a lot of idiots. As a result, everyone saw him as someone who was anxious to make a move, but was also unwilling to do so. Done. After finishing her work, Boundless Mang turned around and said to the group of people behind her. 24 hours? Han family young master asked. Yes. It's 7:37 now. Everyone will meet at 6:30 tomorrow to make some necessary arrangements. Han family young master announced. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone nodded. Now hurry up and spread the news. Don't be too deliberate. Han family young master waved his hand. Instantly, half of the people dispersed. Lan Yi was once again depressed. In his heart, he was thinking that after this matter was over, he would give these brats a good lesson in ideology and make them deeply aware of who their boss was. This group of impatient brothers was very efficient. The news of a high-quality priest staff being consigned for sale in the auction house slowly spread in Whitestone City. When it came to spreading gossip, it was always good to have a start. After that, there would be professional gossip lovers to spread the news everywhere. After that, a few priest players who received the news all ran to the auction house to take a look. Of course, the ideal staff did not have an undeserved reputation. Just its ordinary attributes were stronger than the staffs used by most priests. Moreover, the skill, mana sacrifice, was simply a skill that could recover mana. Currently, priests could only recover HP. With this staff, not only could it recover HP, it could also recover mana. How cool was that? One had to know that having no mana or HP at a critical moment was equally fatal. Although the price of 1800 gold made many normal players stop, those who knew the industry knew that this price was already considered low. It was definitely a bargain to be able to buy it. However, seeing that there were so many priests gathered in the auction house, everyone could guess why they had come. As a result, those who had no money in their pockets looked at the staff and drooled. Those who had money in their pockets saw that there were many competitors and were in no hurry to make a move. This staff did not have a maximum price, so it was completely meaningless to bid now. Wait until the last 10 minutes of the 24 hours, or even the last minute, when the competition would be the fiercest. After those who knew the time, they had already turned around and left. Instead of wasting time here, it was better to use this time to raise more money. Looking at the situation, this staff might not even be able to be bought for 3,000 gold. No, it might even be 4,000. 5,000. The priest who had left the auction house saw other priests surging out from various streets and continued to rush to the auction house, and became more and more pessimistic. This was the true value of an exquisite equipment. The so-called market price was an evaluation made by everyone based on the comparison of the attributes. However, the greatest characteristic of a truly exquisite equipment was its scarcity. Thus, it would lead to a bidding war. In the end, it would be impossible to predict how much the equipment would be sold for. The same ideal staff might be sold for 3,000 gold this time, or 5,000 gold the next time. This was because the quantity was too small, so small that it was simply not enough to form a fixed supply and demand market. Every time it appeared, there would be a new market, so how could there be such a thing as a market price? The market price that the players spoke of was actually a synonym. It had different meanings at different times. For ordinary equipment, the market price could be understood as the highest price. For truly exquisite equipment, the market price could be understood as the lowest price. At this moment, a large number of priests were heading to the auction house to look at equipment. After looking at it, some of them forgot to go home, while others seized the time to start raising money. The resulting chain reaction was that the players who were used to leveling in random parties discovered that there were surprisingly few priests tonight. At the main city gate, this was the most common area for random parties. Groups of players stared at each other, all because there were no priests in their party, so they couldn't set out to level. What's going on? When these leveling armies asked around, it naturally became a new wave of news spreading. The auction house has consigned an exquisite priest staff for sale. It's called the Ideal Staff, and it has regeneration skills. This message quickly spread throughout Whitestone City. The Ideal Staff. Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow heard this news at the same time as they were in the tavern. What? Broken Arrow still didn't know that Yi Xiaowu had been instigated by Silvermoon to buy this staff. This staff has a skill called Mana Sacrifice. It's currently one of the few mana recovery skills. Yi Xiaowu said. Sounds very useful. Broken Arrow said. Very useful. Yi Xiaowu said. Let's go take a look. Let's go. The two of them went to the auction house together. At this time, it had already been 3 hours since Gu Fei had logged off. It was the dead of night, but there were still many priests in the auction house. There were tens of thousands of priests in a main city. People constantly received the news, and people constantly rushed over. The auction house had never been so lively before in Whitestone City. There were many auction tables in the auction house, but at this moment, none of them were empty. In front of each table, there was a group of priests. Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow looked at each other, then chose a table with fewer people and squeezed in. On the auction board, the the ideal staff was impressively listed at the top. Although the majority of players who wanted it calmly waited until the last moment to bid tomorrow, there were also some who casually opened their bids. At this moment, the price had already jumped to 2,217 gold, 58 silver, 40 copper. There were rules for raising the price of items in the auction house. The lowest bid was 10 copper, and there was no upper limit. However, when someone raised the price by more than 10 copper, the lower limit would be refreshed. Yi Xiaowu looked at the current limit. It had already been raised to 1 gold. And in the blink of an eye, the price jumped again, jumping to 2,218 gold, 58 silver, 40 copper. This looks like it won't be easy to get. Broken Arrow looked at the surging priests around him, wiping his sweat. Yes, looking at this situation, buying it isn't just a matter of money. You need a bit of luck. Yi Xiaowu said. That's not necessarily true. You can directly send in 10,000 gold right now. I don't think anyone will raise another 10,000. Broken Arrow laughed. There's no need. Yi Xiaowu also laughed. I've already bought one for 4,000 gold. Oh. Where? Broken Arrow asked. The Silvermoon gang contacted him. Yi Xiaowu said. That brat, is he reliable? Broken Arrow said. What? Is he going to use a fake to trick me? Yi Xiaowu laughed. At most, he, as the middleman, will get a few hundred gold. But look, even if he gets a little sweet, 4,000 gold is still considered cheap. If this continues to rise, there shouldn't be any suspense about it exceeding 4,000 gold, right? There's no suspense. Broken Arrow agreed, but immediately afterwards, he saw the name of the magic staff seller. He immediately said, Boundless Mang Mang. This is the wife of the previous Silvermoon. Oh. Yi Xiaowu also immediately noticed and muttered, could it be that this is the magic staff he contacted for me? It can't be. I heard that the two of them had a very bad relationship. That girl would sell anyone, but not him. Broken Arrow said. I'll ask him. Yi Xiaowu said. How many of these magic staffs have appeared in-game? Broken Arrow asked from the side. How would I know so clearly? Yi Xiaowu said as he sent a message to Silvermoon, the ideal magic staff you contacted, is it the one in the Boundless Mang Mang Mang? At this time, Silvermoon was alone leveling in the wilderness with his face covered. Every minute he stayed in Whitestone City made him nervous, not to mention going to places with many people like the tavern. So when he had nothing to do, he hurriedly ran to the wilderness, specifically looking for the kind of uninhabited leveling area that was rarely visited by people. He painstakingly leveled alone. He didn't know anything about the magic staff that had already spread in the city. Suddenly receiving Yi Xiaowu's message, Silvermoon was shocked. His first thought was that Yi Xiaowu had completely sold him out. He had already said everything that he promised not to say. But this was just a thought. With just one sentence, Silvermoon wouldn't be so shocked that he would confess without being pressed. He immediately replied, Ah. One word, one question mark, but it was extremely mysterious. It did not directly admit or deny what Yi Xiaowu had asked. Every word revealed a sense of doubt, hinting for Yi Xiaowu to continue. An ideal magic staff has appeared in the exchange hall. It's being sold by Boundless Mang. Yi Xiaowu immediately explained the whole story. He speculated that Silvermoon had instigated him to buy the staff so that she could get a few $100s as a commission. He did not expect that Silvermoon had actually hired a group of robbers to attack her closest friend. Ah! It's this one. How could this woman go back on her word? She said she would sell it to me. Silvermoon pretended to be indignant and once again splashed dirty water on Boundless Mang. At this moment, he had another evil idea. In his eyes, Yi Xiaowu was undoubtedly an extremely rich person. After knowing that this was the staff, he would probably buy it from the auction house. As for Jian Nanyu, although he had deleted Silvermoon as a friend, fortunately, Glue and the four of them had added each other as friends yesterday. Silvermoon later contacted Glue and learned that although Jiannanyu had deleted him, he would still complete the task he had accepted out of professionalism. Otherwise, he would pay the full amount of money according to the rules. Silvermoon knew the rules of Jiannanyu and the others. As long as they received the deposit, it meant that they had accepted the task. At this time, if the buyer wanted to cancel the task, the deposit would not be refunded. If they cancelled the task, they would return double the deposit. Although the staff had been sold, it was not difficult to find the buyer. Of course, Jiannanyu and the others had to check the buyer if they continued the task. Then they found out that the buyer was Hengchen Yixiao, and then, if he cancelled the task, I would have earned 2,000 gold for nothing. If he continued the task, he would even kill Yixiaowu. It was none of my business. Silvermoon had this idea, so he directly admitted that it was the same staff. So it's like this. Yixiaowu responded and didn't say anything else. Silvermoon felt that there was no need to say any more encouraging words. He was afraid that Jiannanyu and the others still didn't know that the staff had been auctioned, so he hurriedly contacted Glue. Boundless Mang, the staff has been consigned for sale at the auction house. Do you know? Silvermoon said. There's such a thing. I don't know. Glue said. Hurry up and pay attention. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if you don't know who bought it. Silvermoon said. Fuck. Just as this message was sent, Silvermoon suddenly reacted and slapped himself. It was a good thing that Jiannanyu and the others didn't know the whereabouts of the staff. If they couldn't find it and couldn't complete the task, wouldn't they still have to pay? Didn't he achieve his goal? Why did he have to remind them with such a cheap mouth? Fuck. Silvermoon slapped herself twice more. Chapter 567. While Silvermoon was regretting her actions, Jiannanyu frowned when he heard the news from Glue. Ever since they started out, Jiannanyu and the others had only imagined this kind of situation. They had never experienced it before because they were worried that it would happen, so they would carefully hide their true intentions. But this time, because the opponent had Gu Fei, who knew Jiannanyu and the others very well, their intentions were completely exposed. This Mang had obviously guessed that the only thing worth dropping from her was the staff. What should they do when this happened? Jiannanyu and the others had seriously discussed it before. The conclusion was that it was too troublesome, so they had to nip it in the bud. Besides, most people might not have the determination to give up on the high-quality equipment, so they weren't really worried about it. They didn't expect Mang to be so bold, giving up on the high-quality equipment just like that. What should we do? Everyone looked at Jiannanyu. Obviously, Jiannanyu's group was much more cohesive than Lan Yi's group. Whenever there was a problem, everyone would look to their boss. I've already received the deposit. Even though it's from that trash Silvermoon, I don't want to compensate her just because we can't complete the quest. Jiannanyu said. Okay. Everyone was very supportive. When Jiannanyu came back and told everyone about it, they were all very angry. She had repeatedly doubted the professionalism of their group. This was too hurtful. Let's go to the auction house first. Huorani suggested. Wait. Jiannanyu suddenly froze. Everyone looked at him again. Jiannanyu nodded. The 7 of them walked back from the leveling area. They passed by a few areas and found that there were fewer people leveling today than usual. Just as they were puzzled, they finally returned to the city gate of Whitestone City. It was already midnight, but the city gate was unexpectedly lively. It was obvious that something unusual had happened. However, when the 7 of them paid attention, they found that it was just random parties gathering people to level up. This situation was extremely rare. Because everyone was a random party, they didn't know each other. Not enough people. Then 2 parties would form 1 party, 3 parties would form 2 parties. It would usually be solved quickly. There was no need to wait for a long time. However, at this moment, there were so many parties waiting. Jian Yu and the others paid more attention and finally saw that all the teams were priests. Bro, what's going on? Glue went up to a player and asked. Damn, I heard that there's an exquisite priest staff for sale in the exchange hall, and all the priests have gone there. If you say you want to buy, then bid. If you don't want to buy, then just watch. What's the point of everyone wasting their time there? This person was full of complaints. Is that so? How long have you been waiting here? Glue asked. Almost half an hour. Damn it, there are still several queues in front of us. After listening to his words, Glue paid more attention and found that the teams were still arranged in order. Perhaps the arrival of the priest had caused a commotion, so now everyone was lining up harmoniously. When a priest came, a line would form, and when a priest came, a line would form. You want 2 priests? Today, this is an unrealistic fantasy. He wanted to go back and report the situation to Jian Yu and the others, but he found that they were already in chaos. The players waiting for the priests at the city gate were all anxious. When the 2 great priests appeared, they were immediately surrounded and tried to rope them in. The 2 didn't even say anything, but the others had already started arguing. Damn, what are you fighting for? We agreed to do it in order, someone shouted. Damn, 1 for each priest. Are you trying to rope them all in? There's still 1 more, and it's not your turn. It's our team's turn. Our team. Our team. It was fine if the priests came 1 by 1, as everyone had some discipline. Now that 2 suddenly appeared, it immediately caused a commotion. What hadn't Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sinsen seen before? This was the first time they had experienced something like this. Being treated like a boss by so many people felt great, and they didn't understand. In the end, it was Jian Yu who spoke up. Everyone, calm down, we're a fixed team. Big brother, your team only has 6 people. 2 priests, that's too extravagant. Let us have 1. Someone saw that Jian Yu seemed to be the boss and immediately came over to curry favor. Are you joking? Big brother, we'll hire 1 of your priests, 50 gold an hour. Jian Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. We're busy now. What can be more important than leveling up? These people didn't give up. They were already dumbfounded from waiting for the priests. Some even went to instigate Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sinsen. Brothers, I see that your team's level isn't high. Some of you aren't even level 40. What's the point of following you? Come with us. It's a 10-man team, all level 41. The 2 of them didn't speak and continued to enjoy the treatment of an emperor. They glanced at Blackwater and Flaming Shirt, the 2 noobs who weren't even level 40. You 2 bastards, say something. Jian Yu was furious when he saw the 2 of them acting so inappropriately at such a crucial moment. He shouted at the 2 of them in the team channel. The 2 of them didn't dare to continue and hurriedly explained to the people surrounding them, there's really something. Since the main character had spoken, the surrounding players tried to persuade them, but they could only leave helplessly. Jian Yu and the others didn't dare to stay any longer. They all left the area where the priests were treated like treasures. Damn, isn't it just selling an exquisite staff? It actually made all the priests in the city nervous. Flaming Shirt said with lingering fear. Just now, a bunch of people had come up to curry favor with Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sinsen. As a little mage who wasn't even level 40, he wasn't treated as a human at all. Some strength-based professions were too heavy-handed. Flaming Shirt was almost pulled to death by so many hands. The value of exquisite equipment is really immeasurable. Blackwater exclaimed. Even Jian Yu nodded. This is just a staff in the boundless wilderness. If it was Qianli's sword with unknown attributes or Silvermoon's trashy king's sword, what would have happened? TSK, we chose this profession because we have such a bright future. Glue said. Yes. The 7 of them shed tears of happiness. They were proud that they had chosen to rob for a living. The auction house is just ahead. The 7 of them finally arrived near the auction house. Previously, when Jian Yu and the others were busy getting out of trouble, Glue had inquired about the situation of the staff on consignment and confirmed that it was undoubtedly the ideal staff. In addition, he had also inquired about the time when the staff would be on consignment and the situation that there was no fixed price. The priests who came to the auction house obviously wanted to see the attributes and price of the staff. Jian Yu and the others didn't care. After arriving near the auction house, the 7 of them paid more attention to the surrounding terrain. This might be a trap. On the way, Jian Yu suddenly made this hypothesis. A trap. The 6 of them frowned. No matter how I look at it, I feel that the staff has caused a huge commotion. It's only been about 7 hours and it's already spread like wildfire. Don't you think it's a bit exaggerated? Jian Yu said. Such a high-quality equipment is indeed rarely consigned for sale in the auction house. No one knows what will happen next, Huorini said. I know that. But think about it, when such an exquisite piece of equipment appeared in the auction house, everyone who wanted it would try to block the news as much as possible. The fewer people who knew about it, the better. Therefore, the source of the news should only be those who like to gossip. With their strength, how could the whole city know about it within 7 hours? Don't you think it's a bit strange? Jian Yu said. It's not just 7 hours. 7 hours is only the current time. I heard that the priests started to get nervous at around 10 at night, Glue interrupted. That's even more obvious. It's only been 2 hours, yet the news spread so quickly. I think someone is purposely spreading it. Jian Yu said. This isn't hard to understand. For example, the seller. Spreading the news as much as possible to let more people know, Flaming Shirt said. I heard that there's even a post on the forum, Glue said. I know it's possible, but considering the relationship between us and the seller, we have to be careful, Jian Yu said. What do you mean? There are 2 possibilities. Jian Yu raised his finger. First, the whole city knows. There's no reason for us not to know. Mang is using this to send us a message. The staff isn't in her hands, so don't look for her. Everyone nodded. If that's the case, then it's good. What's more troublesome is that there's a trap within a trap. If we take this as a possibility, then we have to find out who will have the staff. Then, we have to start monitoring the NPC in the auction house the moment the auction ends. This will give the other party a chance to ambush us. This is the second possibility that we need to worry about, Jian Yu said. Who would have such a deep calculation? I don't know. The scariest part of this scheme is that even if we suspect it's a trap, we have to act according to his wishes. He knows that we aren't willing to take the risk of failing the quest, Jian Yu said. Hey, it's just suspicion. Don't make it sound so serious, Glue said. Jian Yu smiled bitterly. He needs our suspicion. It would be great if we were 100% serious. Then what should we do? Won't it be dangerous for us to go over now? Glue said. We won't go in. Let's observe the surroundings first, Jian Yu decided. At this moment, the 7 of them arrived near the auction house and walked around the surrounding streets and alleys. I didn't find anything strange. They were all experts at ambushing others. Setting up an ambush was also their forte. At this time, after walking around, they only saw clerics running around. There was nothing strange. The center of the city is wide and there are many streets. If they want to set up an ambush here, the most important thing is manpower. I don't think a guild that isn't rank 4 or above can completely lock down this area. There are only so many streets, can they defend it? Glue came to this conclusion after observing. Chapter 568. It's impossible under normal circumstances, but what if Qianli is drunk? Flaming Shirt asked. Ken and Yoshi glanced at him. He was the one who was most afraid of Qianli getting drunk. Perhaps it was because they were of the same class, Ken and Yoshi did not even dare to raise his head when he walked. Ken and Yoshi patted him on the shoulder and said, "Qianli is alone when he gets drunk. He can fight against all 7 of us." Flaming Shirt said. "No, I mean, we can split up." Ken and Yoshi felt that he should take back his idea. Flaming Shirt was not as afraid of Qianli as he thought. He wanted to fight against Qianli. What he wanted to do was to split up and run. But they have other forces. "If we split up, we might not be able to break through," Glue said. "That's why we need to sacrifice some people to stall Qianli for a while," Ken and Yoshi said. Blackwater and Flaming Shirt stood up without hesitation. The 2 of them were not LVL 40 yet, so they would not suffer any losses. Jiannan Yu's group of 7 was a true team. Every one of them firmly believed in teamwork. A strong team was the principle of true strength. Although the other 5 did not intend to be courteous with the 2 of them, they still expressed their gratitude for their sacrifice. At the same time, they felt sorry for them, but there was no other way. If it was not necessary, why would they sacrifice themselves so cruelly? The 7 of them were solemn, as if they were holding a memorial service for Blackwater and Horani in advance. While they were immersed in their roles, Glue suddenly thought of something. His face lit up with joy and he shouted excitedly, "I have an idea." "What idea?" "A brilliant idea," Glue said proudly. That night, the topic of the mage staff persisted in Whitestone City, and as the news spread on the forums, there were even clerics from other cities who traveled thousands of miles to Whitestone City. Just this distance alone was enough to show the determination of these clerics. This had a huge impact on the priests of Baishur City. Originally, they were competing with a city, but in the blink of an eye, they were competing with the entire world. The price of the magic staff began to crazily soar along with this wave of attacks. The bidding price continuously rose. After grinding for an entire night, they returned to the auction house to take a look. The price had already soared to 3,424 gold, 58 silvers, and 40 coppers. The minimum bidding price had already been raised to 50 gold. The price had increased by so much in one night. This was definitely an unprecedented frenzy of buying. It must be known that the real time to raise the price had not yet arrived. These were just some tentative bids. Just like that, the final transaction price had already reached such a number, and the final transaction price was simply unimaginable. "Motherfucker, this is what you call a real top-tier equipment," Tsubasa Sakuratsuka exclaimed. As the #1 trap technician in Cloud City, some of the equipment on him was also known as the best equipment for lurkers, but it was nothing compared to this ideal staff. The simplest example was the auction house's trade panel. Search for the ideal magic staff, and there was only one of it. Search for the name of any top-tier equipment on Tsubasa Sakuratsuka's body, page after page. This shouldn't be called top-tier equipment. It should be called rare equipment, Fireball said. "You summed it up very well," Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. He then looked at the vast expanse of land next to him and noticed that the girl's eyes were a bit blank. He waved his hand in front of her eyes and said, "Hey, you're not really planning on selling it, are you? Selling a rare top-tier equipment and exchanging it for a common set of top-tier equipment on the street would increase your overall strength." Many players who cared about EXP would make this choice. However, this type of rare equipment was a symbol of personality. In the game, it was very easy to be the same, and personality was something that was very difficult to pursue. In this vast and boundless world, there was a symbol of personality in front of them, so they clearly didn't want to give it up. Even though they were shocked by the increase in price, and the thought of selling it flashed through their minds, they immediately dispelled it and shook their heads when they heard Sakurazuka Tsuzuka's question. "Looking at this situation, we need to gather more money. In the end, we need to offer a sky-high price that no one dares to touch. Otherwise, if we keep raising it like this, we might not be able to snatch it back," Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. "Can you stop talking?" Lan-E suddenly said. "Am I wrong?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was baffled. Lan-E angrily winked at his surroundings. Sakurazuka Tsukuzi also reacted. It was indeed inappropriate to discuss these things in public. Fortunately, the auction stage was occupied by their troops, so no one should have heard what they said just now. Tsubasa Sakaratsuka didn't dare to be careless and immediately shut his mouth. Let's go. After saying that, everyone nodded and left the auction house. As they discussed this matter in the channel, they went their separate ways and went offline. That night, when Gu Fei logged on, he immediately received a message from 100 Era's Jinglan, "I'm here." Okay. Gu Fei responded and asked where he was. It turned out that this guy had just logged on and wasn't far from the offline area. So, Gu Fei went to pick him up and asked for the location of today's gathering. It was the same tavern as yesterday, and he immediately went there with 100 Era's Jinglan. It was 10 minutes past 6. There were still 20 minutes left from the time when the Han family young master informed everyone to meet. However, more than half of the people in the tavern had already arrived. It seemed that everyone was very enthusiastic about this matter. Almost everyone is here. The Han family young master saw Gu Fei and 100 Era's Jinglan enter. Everyone greeted each other. Lan Yi hadn't seen 100 Era's Jinglan before, but after someone introduced him, he said that it was an honor to meet him. 100 Era's Jinglan smiled and said, "You're too kind. I haven't seen this brother before. Is he from Baishur City? What's there to take care of?" "Ah. Take care of?" Lan Yi was confused. "For example, someone who made you unhappy." 100 Era's Jinglan gave an example. Oh. Lan Yi came to a realization. At the same time, he remembered that Gu Fei said that he wanted to hire this guy to kill someone. It turned out that he was really a hired thug. Someone who made me unhappy. Lan Yi thought and couldn't help but look at Tsubasa Sakaratsuka. Fuck, why are you looking at me? Tsubasa Sakaratsuka was also very sharp. Hey, the two of you don't seem to have a good relationship. 100 Era's Jinglan looked very interested. Everyone looked at him. Whoever offers a higher price, I can help teach the other party a lesson, 100 Era's Jinglan said. Everyone looked at each other. Hey, are you serious? Is this how you do business? Gu Fei said. What's the problem? 100 Era's Jinglan asked. You should have some principles. At least have a first come, first served basis. For example, if Lani wants to teach you a lesson first, then go to Bien Uz. You actually use this the highest bidder wins method. Is this proper? In the long run, who will trust you and promote you? Gu Fei said. Brother Zue. Tsubasa Sakaratsuka was in tears at the side. He was someone who knew how powerful 100 Era's Jinglan was, so he really didn't like this example. I know that. 100 Era's Jinglan smiled, but now both of them are in front of us. You see how they hate each other so openly, the auction is also giving them a fair chance to compete, don't you think? Now that you put it that way, it makes sense. Gu Fei nodded, then waved his hand at Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakaratsuka and said, you guys continue. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakaratsuka immediately acted as if they were facing a great enemy. At this time, they didn't know whether it was true or not. They were really afraid that the other party would make a bid, and 100 Era's Jinglan's fist would hit one of them. The two's eyes were fiercely fighting, and their lips were about to move. I'll buy it. Slim Waist Dance suddenly threw a money bag on the table. Oh. Which one? 100 Era's Jinglan picked up the money bag and opened it while asking. Soon after he saw the approximate number, he immediately said, this much, I can buy two together. After saying that, he began to roll up his sleeves. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakaratsuka were shocked. They didn't know how they offended this missy. Not them. Slim Waist Dance quickly said, it's Jian Nanyu, do you know him? Oh. Yes, it's him again. 100 Era's Jinglan said. Yes, it's him again. Gu Fei nodded. This time, it's a lot more than the last time. 100 Jinglan glanced at Han family young master. Last time, he ran around and earned a bottle of wine. And, your business is flourishing now, you're famous, and your net worth has also increased. Do a good job, I have high hopes for you. Han family young master said. 100 Jinglan was very happy. After putting away the money bag, he got up and rubbed his palms. Okay, where's Jian Nanyu? I'll lure him out tonight. Gu Fei said. Very good. 100 Jinglan sat back in his seat, as straight as a javelin. Han family young master then led everyone to the main topic. Okay, now let's make some preparations. How? Lan Yi was a bit excited. He hadn't participated in a large-scale PK for a long time. Preparations? Han family young master was confused, then nodded. After clearing the table, he said, if it's convenient, each person can pay 200 gold coins. That way, we won't have to keep track of the numbers. Lan Yi was startled. This is what you're talking about? What else is there? There's still an hour before the auction ends. What's more important than gathering the money? Han family young master asked. Lan Yi was stunned. He turned around like a log. Everyone, gather the money. 200 gold coins. Han family young master shouted again. Why? Someone couldn't help but ask. Didn't I just say it? That way, we won't have to keep track of the numbers. Why do we have to keep track of the numbers? If you don't want to take the money back, then you don't have to. Han family young master didn't even turn his head. He was too lazy to look at this kind of idiot. Remember those who paid, so that no one can take advantage of the situation. Han family young master said to Lan Yi. Fuck, why didn't you say so earlier? Lan Yi was anxious. Many people didn't even come over. They only saw a bag of money fall onto the table. How would they know who paid? Why don't you ask your brothers to all pay? That way, you don't have to keep track of the numbers. Han family young master said. Pay, pay. Lan Yi waved his hand. He didn't want to do such a tiring job. What if you don't have 200 gold coins? There was still this kind of voice. Then your boss will hate you. That's because he needs to record your name and money on paper. Han family young master said. Lan Yi was indeed depressed. He rolled his eyes and shouted, those who don't have 200 gold coins, come to me. Chapter 569. The funds were collected very quickly. Gu Fei and the others also took out 200 gold to show their willingness to participate. Not long after, they had collected 34,624 gold. Lan Yi held onto the account slip, sweating profusely. After confirming that the number of people and the amount of money were correct, he let out a sigh of relief. There's no problem, right? Young Master Han asked when he saw the relieved expression on his face. Lan Yi nodded. Han family young master looked at the time and stood up. It's about time. You're going to complete the transaction? Lan Yi was confused. Han family young master's class was suitable, but didn't they say that they couldn't let faces that were familiar with Jian Nanyu appear? No, there's someone else. Han family young master looked at Boundless Mang. Boundless Mang nodded his head in agreement. Everyone else was confused. It seemed like Han family young master and Boundless Mang were plotting something. Then let's go. Gu Fei rubbed his palms together. How do we arrange people at the revival point? Do we leave a team at each revival point for the 6 classes? Lan Yi maintained the ruthless style of Moonlit Night City. Killing once was not considered killing. If they didn't block the revival point for half a month, they wouldn't know how strong they were. Whatever. Han family young master said. His nonchalant attitude made it seem like this kind of thing was useless. Lan Yi was confused again. It's like this. In the end, it was Boundless Mang who patiently explained to everyone. The auction has to be completed immediately, but we can delay picking up the goods for a week. So I'm planning to store the staff there. Lan Yi was startled. Jian Nanyu and the others must know the whereabouts of the staff, so they have to stay there 24/7 for a week? Boundless Mang nodded his head. So vicious. Lan Yi sighed in admiration. No wonder his position in the guild was lower than Boundless Mang even though he was the vice-guild leader. He couldn't just consider the fact that she was the guild leader's wife. Just look at the current plan. Making people waste a week was much more sinister and cruel than blocking the revival point. Does that mean we don't have to fight today? Everyone had been rubbing their palms together the whole night yesterday. They didn't expect such a situation to happen today. There's no need, said the vast Mang Mang. Aren't you going to lure Jian Nanyu out? Encyclopedic Classics did not know the cause and effect, so he did not quite understand what was going on. However, he could tell that there would not be any fights today. I didn't say that, replied the Han family young master. Bai Yanjing looked at Gu Fei, and Gu Fei said solemnly, there's a change of plans. Then, just as the Han family young master was about to say something, someone burst through the door and yelled, bad news. Lan Yi turned around and saw that it was one of his brothers. He immediately got angry. Why are you only here now? It's not like I won't return the money. Do you need to hide? No, something has happened, the man shouted. What is it? Asked the others. There are a lot of people at the auction house. The man said. Everyone waited quietly, waiting for him to continue. But after he said that, he was gone. Lan Yi was about to scold him, but the Han family young master's expression suddenly changed. Oh no! What is it? The others looked at him. If there are too many people, I'm afraid I won't be able to get the auction stage now, said the Han family young master. Everyone reacted. They had actually neglected such a cruel and realistic problem. Let's go! Lan Yi yelled. A large group of people rushed out of the tavern. The vast Mang Mang was even more anxious. It was obvious that if they couldn't get the auction stage, it would be useless no matter how much money they had. The staff was really going to change owners. Everyone rushed to the auction house. With just one glance, they felt that the situation was hopeless. Every auction stage in the auction house was like a bus during rush hour. It was packed to the point of bursting. Although there seemed to be gaps between the people, it was just the air wall that the system had set up in the safe zone to limit the players' contact with each other. Moreover, although the auction house and trading house didn't have the offline save function, they were even safer than the offline zone. In these two areas, players could not even use their skills. Even the bounty quests in the offline region, which were unrestricted, were sealed here. There was really no way to enter such a crowded place at this moment. This kind of problem suddenly appeared in the game. Even the Han family young master had forgotten about it. After all, this kind of problem wouldn't appear in traditional games. No matter how many people there were, they could just use the shortcut button to block it. How could there be a situation where people couldn't enter a room? Looking at this scene, everyone could only stare at each other helplessly. The auction house was in an uproar. Because they couldn't do anything, everyone used their mouths to their advantage and cursed endlessly. Gu Fei and the others circled the auction stage twice and discovered that there were many people like them who were unable to come into contact with the auction stage due to this situation. At this moment, other than frowning and cursing, there was nothing they could do. In this super safe zone, even someone as strong as Gu Fei was no different from a level 0 noob. What do we do? Everyone was asking this question. Misty Mang looked at the time. There were only 20 minutes left until the end of the auction. From the looks of it, we might not be able to get the staff back, but we'll definitely be able to sell it for a high price. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka had already started to comfort her. Yeah. I'll buy everyone a drink after I sell it. Misty Mang was smiling, but everyone could see that her smile was forced. This girl was undoubtedly a person who valued relationships. She treated people and items the same. The staff that had been with her for so long was about to change owners. No amount of money could make up for her reluctance to part with it. As for the value of the equipment itself, it was just an increase in her reluctance to part with it. Lan Yi couldn't stand it anymore. He took a large bag of gold and went to find someone to discuss with. He wanted to buy a way out. In the end, the people in the outermost circle were also frustrated because they couldn't get in to buy the staff. They only said one word to Lan Yi: "Fuck off." Who dared to come and buy the staff? Which one of them was short of money? Lan Yi's method had already been used by someone before. That person had used his money to open a bloody path, but the innermost players who were touching the auction console refused to let him go. This was equivalent to spending a lot of money to buy a good spot in the front row to see who was bidding. Their mood couldn't be any more depressed. Lan Yi fumbled around a few times. After hearing about this legend, he didn't dare to use this method again. He came back dejectedly and shook his head at Misty Mang. Misty Mang didn't say anything. She only sighed and turned to Gu Fei and the other experts: "Go pick up the goods and see if there are any of Jian Nanyu's people." It was clear that the situation had gone out of control. They could only put on a show and lure Jian Nanyu's people out. "Wow, are you kidding me? Such a high-quality magic sword, I'll pay 3,000 gold. Suddenly, there was a roar. Everyone turned around and saw that it was Fireball making a ruckus. On a high platform in front of him, Gu Fei had set up a stall and was calmly inserting his Night Streamer sword into the ground. Fireball's shout attracted the attention of a few people around him. After curling their lips in disdain, they couldn't help but glance at the Night Streak sword in the stall. The properties of the items set up in the stall were automatically made public. Once these people saw it, they couldn't take their eyes off it. In addition, Fireball continued to shout, sell me," and attracted a few more people's gazes. Most of the people who came to the auction house to buy their ideal staff were priests, but there were also other classes. The Night Streak sword's magic damage was shocking, and its physical damage far exceeded the current level of a level 40 equipment. It was extremely tempting to many classes, including the few night priests. As soon as they saw it, several mages and warriors immediately surrounded it and shouted, "How much?" Perhaps they were asked by their friends to buy their ideal staff, but seeing that they couldn't get a chance to bid, suddenly there was a piece of equipment that suited their class and was far stronger than their ideal staff. How could they not go crazy? Gu Fei immediately became excited and shouted, "I can't squeeze into the auction stage, so I'll auction it here. Whoever wants it, shout louder." 3,000, 3,000. Fireball, who was closest to the stage, continued to shout. 3,000 my ass. Someone looked at Fireball in disdain. Such a high-quality weapon, 3,000 was an insult. "I'll pay 3,100. He shouted. TSK. Everyone thought he was amazing, but they only raised the price by 100 gold. 3,300, 3,400, 3,500, 4,000, the price was higher and higher. Gu Fei didn't care if there were people like Fireball who were just shouting for fun. When he heard a higher price, he immediately repeated it loudly. In a short while, the price had already surpassed the ideal staff that attracted the attention of priests all over the world. The players who were originally focused on the auction here thought that the noise around them was just a farce, but when they heard that the price had actually surpassed their exquisite equipment, they couldn't help but look back. After all, the Night Streamer was a combat weapon. The priest players could still remain calm, but the other players couldn't sit still when they saw this. This was especially true for the non-priest players who were fighting fiercely for their ideal staff. Most of them had been asked by their friends or wanted to increase their own chances of getting the staff. At this time, their purses were bulging, and a piece of equipment that was even better than their ideal staff appeared behind them. It was as if 100 claws were scratching at their hearts, making them itch. The price continued to rise higher and higher. It was much more intense than the system auction at the console, and the speed at which the price was rising was also faster. It seemed that someone was already bidding in RMB and inviting the seller to the exchange. This was an opportunity that couldn't be missed. With this thought in mind, many people finally gritted their teeth and abandoned the fight for their ideal staff. They turned around and rushed towards the swarming crowd, waving their hands and hoping that the seller would see them. Their mouths were also shouting out high prices. Some people felt that the seller wouldn't be able to hear them if they were too far away, so they took out a piece of paper and wrote a number on it, then raised it high on their weapons. Good. The brother over there has already bid 9,700. Is there anyone who wants a higher price? As Gu Fei shouted, he looked down and noticed that the priest in charge of buying the ideal staff had already seized the opportunity and, with the help of the crowd, grabbed a spot on the auction stage and gave him a thumbs up. Chapter 570. Gu Fei's goal had been achieved, and he immediately sent out a message. The person who received the message also understood tacitly. She, who had been waiting for a long time, leaped onto the stage where Gu Fei was standing, raised a bag of money and shouted, "I'll pay 20,000. Silence reigned. Ever since the staff was put up for sale yesterday, the auction house had not been quiet. As the auction of the sword neared its end, it was supposed to be the most exciting moment. However, it suddenly became extremely quiet. It was so quiet that everyone could hear their own breathing. 20,000. Someone pinched his thigh. He wanted to know if this was a dream. Everyone's attention quickly shifted from the Dark Knight streamer to the person who bid 20,000. Red Spectre, Rogue, Female, 20,000 gold. All the characteristics matched. Everyone immediately thought of a legendary name, Slender Waist Dance. Therefore, the players who wanted to question whether this woman was a troublemaker shut up. The players who had more than 20,000 gold in their pockets and wanted to continue bidding shut up. Some players who wanted to cause trouble and bid recklessly even though they had no money in their pockets shut up when they thought of the rumors about this woman's violent nature. Everyone silently watched the woman stand high up on the stage, waving her money pouch and looking down at the players. 20,000 gold, is there any higher bid? Gu Fei spoke. He was still immersed in his character. Fuck, 20,000 gold, and you're still not satisfied? Some people started to coax Gu Fei. Some even threw trash at him. Fortunately, the super safety zone was restricted by the system. The people could only throw the trash, but they could not throw the items in their hands. Is there no higher bid than 20,000? Is there no more? 20,000 going once. Gu Fei shouted. Going twice. Going thrice. Deal. The beauty is yours. Gu Fei led the applause. No one responded. Everyone was extremely jealous. Who would be happy for someone else who had bought an exquisite equipment? Everyone watched as the two of them exchanged the items. This was the only interaction that could take place in the super safety zone. Everyone's heart was bleeding. Apart from the Han family young master and the others who knew that this was just a show, there were others who weren't paying attention to this shocking deal. Yi Xiaowu and Cutting Water Arrow immediately rushed to the auction house after learning that the ideal magic staff was being auctioned yesterday, and it was the one in the vast expanse. For the whole night and day, Yi Xiaowu was the only one who never left the auction console. Is there a need to do this? Broken Water Arrow didn't understand his madness, and he also noticed that Yi Xiaowu only bid intermittently. Most of the time, he paid full attention to the changes in the price, and from time to time, he recorded something in his notebook. If you don't do your homework, how can you have a 100% chance of getting the staff? Yi Xiaowu said. What do you mean? Water-breaking Arrow didn't understand. Look, Yi Xiaowu continued to stare at the auction panel without blinking as she explained to the water-breaking Arrow, although it shows that the staff will be put up for sale for 24 hours, it doesn't show when it starts, when it ends and how much time is left. According to the information we got, we only know that the staff will be put up for sale around 8:00 in the evening. In other words, this auction not only requires enough money, but also enough luck. Only when the bid reaches your hand at the end of the auction will you have the chance to get the staff. Oh, you're trying to calculate the exact auction time of this staff? Water-breaking arrow asked. How is that possible? What I'm doing now is to grasp the pattern of the staff's price jumping and refreshing. This will ensure that my bid will be higher than all the competitors at the most timely moment. Yi Xiaowu said. This? There's a pattern. Water-breaking arrow didn't understand. Under normal circumstances, there isn't, but there should be now. Yi Xiaowu said. I don't understand. Water-breaking arrow said. Let me put it simply. On the surface, the auction panel seems to refresh very quickly, but in fact, there is a fixed interval. The time is 1 second. In other words, within a minute, the price will at most jump 60 times. It can't be more. However, if there are more than 60 prices appearing at the same time in 1 second, the system can't possibly flash all 60 prices in 1 second. It will directly process it behind the scenes, filter out the highest price, and display it on the panel in the next second. However, in this extremely competitive situation, one situation will definitely happen. What situation? More than 2 players will post the exact same price. Yi Xiaowu said. That's right. What will happen if that happens? The system will filter according to the time. The first bidder will get the right to bid, and the other players will get a system notification that they failed to bid. Yi Xiaowu said. I understand. But, what's the pattern you want to grasp? It's this. I want to grasp the system's delay in checking the same price. For example, when the auction panel shows 3,000 gold, in reality, the system is already calculating the next batch of bids of 3,100 gold. If I can grasp this delay and bid accurately, I can guarantee that my bid will always be in the lead. Yi Xiaowu said. This. Is that possible? Although you used the word delay, all of this actually happens in 1 second. Water-breaking arrow said. That's why I'm working hard from now on. Yi Xiaowu said. Is there anything I can help you with? Water-breaking arrow asked. It's good to have a stopwatch. Yi Xiaowu said. Is there one in the game? No. Then work hard. Water-breaking arrow said and didn't say anything else. The above conversation was done through private chat. On the surface, the two of them were focused on the auction panel, as if they were one with the surrounding army of buyers. In order to grasp the difference between the 1 second delay, Yi Xiaowu didn't rest for the entire day. Especially when he thought about how the buying would only really start after 7 at night. At that time, the prices would be refreshed and some unexpected situations would be far from what they were now, so he didn't dare to be negligent. In the end, he didn't encounter the awkwardness of Gu Fei and the others not having a place to participate in the auction. When Water-breaking arrow came again at night, he had no place like Gu Fei and the others. He could only walk around the auction stage where Yi Xiaowu was. There were too many people in the auction house, so he and Gu Fei didn't notice each other until Gu Fei suddenly jumped onto the stage and shouted at the top of his lungs. Water-breaking arrow suddenly noticed and immediately sent a message to Yi Xiaowu. Qianli drunk is auctioning his night streamer sword. Yi Xiaowu studied for a day and a night. Just as he expected, after 7 at night, a large number of players swarmed to buy the staff. The situation was much more serious than it was during the day. Yi Xiaowu had been mentally prepared for this. All the auction tables were working at full capacity, and he was well aware of the number of people that could be accommodated. Everything was within his calculations, but he did not dare to relax in the slightest. He was completely focused on bidding against the crowd, and was completely unaware of the things that Gu Fei had revealed behind him. When he gradually felt that it was easy, Yi Xiaowu breathed a sigh of relief and opened the message that had been flashing for a long time. Qianli drunk is auctioning his night streamer sword. Water-breaking arrow sent this message 5 times. Where? Yi Xiaowu was surprised because it wasn't on the trading panel. Behind you. Water-breaking arrow finally waited for Yi Xiaowu's reply. Yi Xiaowu quickly turned back and saw the scene of Slim-Waisted Dance jumping onto the stage and bidding 20,000 yuan to buy the Nightstreamer sword. Yi Xiaowu was stunned. He recognized that it was Slim-Waisted Dance. Didn't she and Qianli Drunk know each other? What was going on? The appearance of Slim-Waisted Dance was an unforeseen event for Yi Xiaowu. If it weren't for this scene, he would definitely bid for the Nightstreamer sword at all costs. For him, the road to harmony with Gu Fei would be half completed if he accepted this super class-crossing weapon from Gu Fei. However, the appearance of Slim-Waisted Dance made him realize that there was a chance here, so he remained calm and collected. You don't want to continue the auction? The auction outside had ended, but Water-Breaking Arrow found that Yi Xiaowu was still absent-minded, so he quickly sent a message to remind him. Yi Xiaowu calmed herself down and continued to focus on the auction. In the crowd, Glue and Flaming Coat, who had witnessed this transaction, reported it to Jiannan and the others as important news. The terrifying attributes of the Nightstreamer sword terrified Gu Fei's enemies. It was not hard to imagine that Gu Fei's instant kill damage was supported by this weapon. Now that he was going to sell the sword, it was great news for them. However, good times did not last long. After Slim-Waisted Dance jumped onto the stage and bought the Nightstreamer sword, Glue and Flaming Coat were greatly disappointed. They sighed in unison, "Fuck, what a shameless couple. What's going on?" Jiannan and the others who were listening to the broadcast couldn't analyze the actual content of this sentence. Slim-Waisted Dance bought his weapon in the end, the two said resentfully. What's going on? What's their purpose? Jiannan frowned. I don't know. Flaming Coat and Glue certainly couldn't guess that the purpose of Gu Fei's auction was to attract attention and help their members snatch the platform. Let's not worry about it for now. You two keep an eye on them. Should I expose them? Huarini suddenly had an idea. So what if we expose them? What kind of grudge can we have against them? Don't bother with meaningless things. Just keep an eye on them. Jiannan said. Sigh. Flaming Coat let out a deep sigh as she couldn't find a chance to defeat Gu Fei. Actually, both of you can come today. There are so many people at the auction. If you blend in with the crowd, no one will notice you. The two chatted while keeping an eye on the NPC who sold the item. Ah. Fuck. Fuck. All of a sudden, the auction house was thrown into chaos. Loud curses could be heard everywhere, and the auction for the magic staff had officially ended. The players who did not manage to buy it vented their depression in time, like gamblers who had lost a bet. Of course, they hoped that they could spend their money. How did it go? The Water-Breaking Arrow and Boundless Mang both sent messages to their buyers at the first possible moment. Chapter 571. Water-Breaking Arrow sent the message, but there was no reply. He already realized that the situation might not be good. The players who finished the auction scattered. Water-Breaking Arrow sailed against the current and forced his way to the front of the auction stage. He saw Yi Xiaowu petrified like a statue, his eyes still staring at the auction board. Suddenly he turned his head and began to look around. He saw Water-Breaking Arrow next to him and randomly greeted him, then pushed him aside and squeezed out of the crowd. You didn't get it? Water-Breaking Arrow quickly caught up. Yi Xiaowu nodded with a dark face. What happened? Water-Breaking Arrow asked. There won't be a problem with my bid. Yi Xiaowu said with certainty. He had already figured out the pattern and rhythm. Every time the auction board would show the price he offered, and he didn't receive a failed bid notification from the system. This was the best proof. Every single one of his bids was successful, including the last one. Then what happened? Water-Breaking Arrow was puzzled. There is only one possibility. In the last wave of bids, someone raised the bottom line. Raising the bottom line meant that the price was higher than everyone else. In this case, the time was no longer a problem. The system directly chose the highest price to show, and other bids wouldn't be judged as failures, because they were only equivalent to being replaced by a higher price in the auction. Because of this, Yi Xiaowu was sure that his last bid wasn't a failure, but was erased by a higher price. That's really unlucky. Water-breaking arrow sighed. This kind of situation didn't happen in the previous bidding, but it happened at the last second. It's hard to believe that this is a coincidence. Yi Xiaowu said. If it's not a coincidence, then what is it? No one knows when the auction will end. Water-breaking arrow said. Someone knows. Yi Xiaowu said. Who? The seller. Water-breaking arrow suddenly understood. Indeed, the only person who could know when the auction would end was the seller. Maybe after she finished the auction, her friend wanted it, so she told her friend the specific time and helped her friend successfully buy the staff. Water-breaking arrow guessed. Accurate to the second? If she didn't have the intention, would she deliberately remember it so clearly when she consigned it? Yi Xiaowu said. If that's the case, what the hell is going on? Water-breaking arrow was confused. I don't know. Let's take a look. Yi Xiaowu looked around as she walked. At this moment, the auction house was like a movie theater that had just ended. There were players everywhere. Yi Xiaowu wanted to go to the pickup area to see who had bought the staff, but a crowd had already gathered there. Although their feelings were not as complicated as Yi Xiaowu's, the crowd was very united in their curiosity. The flaming cloak and glue blended in with the crowd. They really liked this situation. Firstly, it would be hard for him to be discovered. Secondly, the player who had come to retrieve the staff would definitely be very conspicuous. If he was lucky, he might even be able to find out more about this person. In the end, layers and layers of people waited anxiously, but no one came to pick up the goods. Occasionally, 2 or 3 people would appear, causing everyone to be excited. However, they were all normal auction players, and the items they were bidding for were not ideal staffs. The seller, on the other hand, appeared out of nowhere and took away her big bag of gold coins in satisfaction. Where is he? Why isn't he showing up? Flaming Cloak mumbled. Everyone knew that the items sold in the auction house could be kept for 7 days. However, for a top-grade staff that was bought through such intense bidding, it was only reasonable that the buyer couldn't wait to take it out and try it out, right? However, the buyer didn't show up today, which made everyone very anxious. After more than 10 minutes, many players lost their patience and left one after another. Seeing that there were fewer and fewer people around them, Glue and Flaming Cloak looked around more and more diligently. Where is Qianli drunk? Is he still there? Flaming Cloak asked as she looked around. I didn't see him. Glue was also looking around. The number of players in the auction house gradually decreased, to the point where everyone could be seen at a glance. The two of them looked around, but in the end, they could not find Gu Fei. Previously, when Gu Fei ended the auction, the two of them had wanted to continue watching his movements. However, at that time, there was a sea of people, and it was as if Gu Fei didn't notice them. It wasn't that easy for them to watch Gu Fei. Don't be careless. Qianli drunk did show up. Maybe someone new is watching us, said Glue. Flaming Cloak nodded and continued to be vigilant. Suddenly, she noticed something and pulled Glue away. Look, 2 people seem to be watching us. Glue looked back and was stunned. He recognized that the 2 people were Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow. Flaming Cloak had never seen them before, but he knew that they were the bosses of their next big deal. Not only could he make money, but he could also vent his anger on 1,000 Miles Drunk. Huorini was very happy with this business. After hearing about the glue, he immediately waved at the 2 people enthusiastically. Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow also recognized Glue, and they walked over. Glue wanted to ask them why they were here, but when he saw Yi Xiaowu paying half of his attention to the NPC who sold the goods, he immediately realized their intention. Brother, you didn't get the staff? Glue asked even though he already knew the answer. Yi Xiaowu shook his head. Many people bought it. It was luck, Glue comforted him. Maybe it was luck, or maybe the seller bought it, said Yi Xiaowu. What do you mean? Both Glue and Flaming Cloak's faces changed. With my skills, there shouldn't be such a coincidence that someone would offer a higher price than me, unless the seller knew in advance when the auction would end and took advantage of that second to buy the staff back at a much higher price, Yi Xiaowu said. Skill? Both Glue and Flaming Cloak were distracted. They didn't know that skill was important in auctions in the parallel world. Yi Xiaowu obviously didn't want to explain. He just looked at the NPC and muttered, the person who bought the staff hasn't shown up yet, that. Glue said carefully, what do you think is the possibility that the seller bought the staff? 99%, Yi Xiaowu said after looking at Glue. That's not 100%. Flaming Cloak said. Maybe it's a coincidence. After all, luck couldn't be explained by science. Glue and Flaming Cloak didn't dare to ignore this unexpected information, so they quickly contacted Jiannan, Nan, we met Hengchen Xiao, and he said that there's a 99% chance that the staff was bought by the seller. Oh. What proof does he have? Jiannan asked quickly. He didn't say, but I don't think he's lying, Glue said. So it's really a trap. Jiannan said. But we didn't see Qianli drunk and the others around, Glue said. Didn't they show up before? This proves that they were just there. This must be a trap. Let's leave. Jiannan said. Should we wait and see? Even if it's a trap, we have to figure out who has the staff. Glue said. Since it's confirmed that it's a trap, the staff will eventually return to Mang Mang's hand. We can continue to pay attention to this woman, Jiannan said. That makes sense, but we'd better wait here and see what tricks they have up their sleeves. It's safe here anyway, Glue said. That's fine, Jiannan said. In order to make the trap more believable, Glue asked Yi Xiaowu how he was sure that it was the seller who bought the staff. Yi Xiaowu didn't explain in detail like he did to Broken Water Arrow. He only said that there would be a difference between a successful bid and a failed bid when there were many people bidding. He knew the pattern. The bids were always successful, but the last bid before the end of the auction was directly buried by a higher bid. So he was very suspicious of this coincidence. Hearing this, Glue and Flaming Cloak immediately felt that Yi Xiaowu's deduction was very reliable. Before the end of the auction, no one had raised the bottom line, but this happened 1 second before the end of the auction. It was too much of a coincidence, and it was worthy of 99% suspicion. He sold it and bought it himself. What is he doing? Yi Xiaowu said. Glue and Flaming Coat looked at each other and didn't say anything. When Qianli was drunk, he auctioned his sword, but in the end, he also bought it from his own people. What kind of trick is he playing? Broken Water Arrow was also thinking. Glue and Flaming Coat didn't know the answer either. The four of them frowned and thought hard. Glue and Flaming Coat knew half of it, but why did Qianli play such a trick when he was drunk? Why? The two of them thought so hard that their heads hurt. At this time, Gu Fei and the others were no longer in the auction house. When Gu Fei jumped onto the stage and started to attract the attention of most people, Lan Yi left the auction house with a large group of people. They weren't supposed to appear in the auction house, but because they suddenly realized that there would be no place to auction, they all ran over in a hurry. At this time, seeing that Gu Fei's method was very likely to work, Lan Yi hurriedly called for everyone to leave the auction house, leaving only the clerics to buy the swords. Qianli's method is very likely to work, but he will be exposed. Jian Nan Yu and the others may be in the crowd. When they see him appear at this time, they may realize that this is our trap. Brother Yu was very worried. How meddlesome. The young master of the Han family had a dark expression on his face as he spat out unhappily. But if we don't do this, we won't be able to get on the stage. Brother Yu said. So what? Han family young master said. Brother Yu was startled and stopped walking. Han family young master turned back to look at him. Brother Yu said slowly, I was thinking, you usually don't let go of any details. How could you be so careless as to ignore the fact that there will be a lot of people in the auction house at this time? Of course I know this kind of thing. You want to make the act real. You really want to use the vast and boundless magic staff as bait to lure Jian Nanyu. Jian Nanyu isn't stupid. This is the only way he will fall for it. Han family young master said. Chapter 572. The plan is going smoothly. At this time, Lan Yi swayed in front of the two of them. The one who had bought the staff was his subordinate. Although Boundless Mang had informed him of the exact auction time, it was still not easy to accurately bid for it at the last moment. Furthermore, under such difficult circumstances, they still managed to snatch the auction stage. Lan Yi felt that his brother had made a name for himself this time, and his heart was a lot more relieved. Although Lan Yi felt a little embarrassed when those guys surrounded Gu Fei and asked to admire his world-shaking sword, but the attributes of 1,000 Miles Drunk's Dark Streamer sword were too abnormal. Even Lan Yi himself couldn't help but want to admire them a few more times. Smooth my ass. Han family young master was still in a bad mood. Lan Yi had actually run over to praise the plan. Naturally, he had bumped into the horse's foot. What's wrong? Lan Yi was puzzled. With that guy causing a ruckus, how could Jian Nanyu fall for it? Han family young master pointed at Gu Fei, who was surrounded by Lan Yi's brothers. At this time, even Fireball, who had been fortunate enough to use the Night Streamer sword, was surrounded by a small group of people. Lan Yi obviously knew what causing a ruckus meant. He said helplessly, there's nothing we can do about it. Luckily, Brother Qianli thought of this method to divert the attention of many people. That's how we were able to take advantage of the chaos and snatch the auction stage. Otherwise, all of this would have been for nothing. The Han young master solemnly patted Lan Yi's shoulder. Big brother, let me give you a reminder. Right now, we are still working for nothing. Lan Yi was startled. Wasn't that the case? Fireball had hurriedly bought the staff back, but everyone had already forgotten why the staff had to be put up for sale. From this point of view, not being able to successfully lure Jian Nanyu into the trap meant that everyone had nothing better to do than to put the staff up for sale. Then, they managed to buy it back. In the end, they had paid the system a fee and received a heartbeat of memories. That. Lan Yi really didn't want to admit that his side's attempt to buy back the staff was pointless. He tried to explain in a positive direction, at least we didn't lose the staff. If it was just for this, why would we put it up for sale? Han family young master said. Maybe Jian Nanyu and the others will fall for it. Lan Yi said. Han family young master looked up at the sky, if only he was as stupid as you. What did you say? Lan Yi was furious. He had a bad impression of the Han family's young master to begin with. It was only because they had a good time working together that he felt a little like, no discord, no concord. But now, it seemed like the good cooperation was just his own wishful thinking. The other side clearly thought that the cooperation was a failure. Jian Nan, you won't fall for it. You guys continue to protect Boundless Mang Mang and her magic staff. The Han clan's young master said word by word. You think we can't protect it? Lan Yi was furious. You? Han family young master glanced at Lan Yi with disdain. If it wasn't for Qianli, you wouldn't even be able to get back the staff, and you still want to protect it? You were the one who thought of the plan. Why didn't you predict this beforehand? There were so many people that there were no seats at the auction. It was everyone who had overlooked this situation, not just the young master of the Han family. Lan Yi originally had no intention of blaming anyone, but the young master of the Han family's disdain had poked his sore foot. For a moment, he couldn't find any powerful counterattack, so he could only take advantage of this situation to make a fuss. Brother Yu realized that the situation wasn't looking good and was about to try and smooth things over. However, Han family young master said disapprovingly, "How could I have overlooked this? I just wanted to sell Boundless Mang's staff in this situation and make it look real to lure Jian Nanyu. It's over." Brother Yu looked up to the sky and let out a long sigh. When he realized the true intention of Han family young master's plan, he had been carefully thinking that he couldn't let anyone else know about it. Who would have thought that Han family young master would say it out so casually? Moreover, it didn't seem like he was forced or impulsive at all. It was completely because Lan Yi happened to mention this matter, so he naturally said the truth. "What did you say?" Lan Yi was deeply stunned this time. It was obvious that the impact of this fact was quite big. The previous disdain could be treated as a quarrel between comrades, but this was enough to turn friends into enemies. Unfortunately, it failed. Han family young master spread his hands and continued to look disapproving. Brother Yu was on the verge of crying. This guy's arrogant narcissism was too annoying. Why did I have to appear in this place at this moment? Where's Sword Demon? Where's Qinli? Where's Yutian? Where's Unscathed in battle? Why isn't this group of grandsons here? Why am I the only one here? The two at the center of the incident didn't react, but Brother Yu, who was watching from the side, was already in a mess. "What did you say just now? Say it again." Lan Yi said word by word. Han family young master turned around and walked away. Just as Brother Yu knew, Han family young master didn't say this out of anger or impulsiveness. It was just that this guy didn't care about other people's feelings and carried on with the conversation. At this time, Lan Yi's "say it again" was definitely seen as a meaningless request, so he ignored it and walked away. "Stop right there." Lan Yi chased after him angrily. Brother Yu hurriedly interrupted, that. Brother Yu wanted to say, "Don't misunderstand, these are all words said out of anger, to help Han family young master." In the end, he thought that Han family young master definitely wouldn't agree with his good intentions. He would most likely stop and turn around to look at him in disdain and say, "Words said out of anger? Are you an idiot?" Thinking up to this point, Brother Yu actually didn't say anything after saying that twice. When Lan Yi saw this scene, he knew that everything was true. He shouted, "Stop," and raised his hand, chanting again. A bolt of lightning streaked down from the sky and struck in front of the Han clan's young master. Lan Yi was startled. It looked like the Han family's young master had listened to his "stop" and immediately stopped moving. As a result, he didn't get hit by the lightning. However, Lan Yi knew that his "stop" wasn't a warning at all. It was just like a casual shout in a PvP match. The Han family's young master had obviously predicted his attack. He didn't advance but instead stopped. Thus, Lan Yi's calculated spell missed. "Say it clearly before you leave." Han family young master's dodging caused Lan Yi to calm down. Lan Yi felt that his personality had really changed. If it was back in Moonlit Night City, he wouldn't have said something like, "Say it clearly." He wouldn't have said, "Stop," twice either. He would have just used a lightning spell and gotten straight to the point. After casting the spell and shouting, everyone finally realized what was going on here, and they all gathered around in a hubbub. "What's wrong?" Boundless Mang didn't think that it was a big deal because he knew that Han family young master wasn't a very likable guy. With the personalities of his brothers in Moonlit Night City, it was reasonable for them to make a move on him since they couldn't communicate with him. That guy already predicted that there would be a lot of people in the auction house at the last moment. If he didn't prepare in advance, there wouldn't be a spot for the auction. He purposely didn't mention it and even gathered us to gather money at that time. He wanted us to not get a spot and really sell the ideal staff. He wanted to make it real and lure Jian Nanyu into his trap. Lan Yi wasn't stupid. He even helped Han family young master to add some details. Everyone's expression changed. This method of Han family young master was obviously too unkind and lacking in loyalty. Even Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others, although they treated Gu Fei and the others as their own people, felt that Han family young master's method was too much. Curses rose from all directions, and it seemed like they were surrounding them. Han family young master turned his head and glanced at everyone. He continued to say disapprovingly, "The staff hasn't even been sold yet and you're already like this. If it really gets sold, what are you going to do?" He was still mocking them at a time like this. No one could stand it. The crowd strode forward as if they were going to harvest lives. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others didn't follow them, but they didn't show any intention of stopping them either. They stopped where they were with a difficult expression on their faces. "Can't you just say a few words less?" Han family young master added fuel to the fire, causing Brother Yu to cry. Especially when Han family young master had the aura of a big boss, and he himself was just a cannon fodder before he died. How could he endure this? "Everyone, don't panic." Suddenly, someone squeezed out of the crowd. Brother Yu saw that he was really a fucking savior. The moment this person walked out, everyone couldn't help but take 3 steps back. "Brother Qianli, we know that you're very powerful, but none of us brothers are afraid of death. If you want to stand up for us, then kill us all," Lan Yi said calmly. In front of a great enemy, this guy was actually surprisingly calm. "Not at all, not at all. I'm here to help you." As Gu Fei spoke, he walked towards the young master of the Han family and stood in front of him. It was as if he was talking to the young master of the Han family, but it was also as if he was saying to everyone present, "You have always been dishonest." "You," Han family young master only said one word, and Gu Fei's fist had already flown out. No matter how smart Han family young master was, or how fast his reflexes were, when it came to punching and kicking, the difference between him and Gu Fei was like heaven and earth. This punch landed right on his cheek, and it was a solid hit. On the other hand, Gu Fei's strength wasn't enough for most people. However, the Han family's young master was a priest with the golden ratio. His body was also extremely weak. Gu Fei also had some equipment that increased strength, which was also the same as the Han family's. In addition, he also had some techniques. When this fist landed, the Han family's young master's face caved in. Then, his head tilted, his neck twisted, his body tilted, and his legs tilted. In a single breath, the Han family's young master fell to the ground, causing dust to fly everywhere. The surroundings were silent. Although it was only a single punch, Gu Fei's punches were very difficult for normal players to replicate. They could only turn their opponent into a ball of white light, but at this moment, Gu Fei's punch made everyone feel that it was even more satisfying than chopping Han family young master to death. "I've wanted to beat you up for a long time," Gu Fei said as he looked at Han family young master. Han family young master had already climbed up, and touched the corner of his mouth. He still had a look of disapproval on his face. "You motherfucker." Chapter 573. He was beaten to such a sorry state, but his attitude was still so arrogant. Everyone had their eyes open today. They originally thought that the punch was very satisfying, but now they felt that it wasn't satisfying enough. They all waved their fists towards the sky and cheered for Gu Fei. "Beat him to death, beat him to death." The crowd shouted rhythmically. Gu Fei shook his head helplessly and said, "It would be great if we could really beat him to death. It's a pity that even if we kill him, he will revive. He's still so annoying when we see him again. This part of online games isn't good." Everyone's heart palpitated. They thought to themselves that an expert was indeed an expert. He couldn't even vent his anger by piking someone's level. He really wanted to kill him. It was as cruel as the rumors. Boundless Mang was also dissatisfied with the Han family young master's plan to sell her staff. However, she and Gu Fei weren't as distant as Lan Yi and the others. During the Traversing the Four Seas mission, they had seen each other frequently and had worked together many times. It wouldn't be wrong to call them friends. Boundless Mang was always as cold as winter to her enemies. However, the person in front of her wasn't an enemy. Even if he wasn't kind, his starting point was the same as everyone else. It was to get rid of Jian Nanyu. Thinking about this, Boundless Mang didn't want to dwell on these small matters anymore. She tried to persuade everyone, forget it, forget it. The staff is still here. Nothing happened. There's no need to kill each other over this. In short, Boundless Mang still saw the Han family young master as one of their own. Han family young master nodded and praised Boundless Mang, "You're much more magnanimous than them." Everyone was angry. Boundless Mang glared at him, "Next time you want to do something like this, at least tell us first, right? I have no confidence in your acting skills." Han family young master said indifferently. "Is that so? I think you just like to see everyone fly into a rage because of you, right?" Gu Fei gave him a sidelong glance. "As long as the plan works, I don't care about anything else." Han family young master said. Forget it, forget it. Let's leave it at that." Mang Mang suspected that if his brothers continued to listen to the Han family young master's preaching, they would most likely become irritable again. At that time, he might not be able to persuade them even if he wasn't the person involved. Thus, he wanted to quickly disperse everyone. "Don't!" Gu Fei suddenly interrupted. "It's not over yet." "What?" Everyone stared blankly for a moment, and then joy appeared on their faces. Could it be that Brother Expert also felt that one punch was too little, and was prepared to do another 3 or 2 punches? Cough. "It's like this. You see, the original plan has failed, so we can only use the original method." Gu Fei said. "What kind of crude method?" Boundless Mang Mang asked. "Leave the staff to me." Gu Fei beamed with joy. "Damn, you're not purposely causing trouble, are you?" The young master of the Han family was now seriously suspecting that Gu Fei had purposely messed up the situation and ruined the plot he had designed, causing the current situation to fail. Then, he would jump out and continue with his old and broken plan. Right now, Jian Nanyu and the others might still be in the auction house. Thus, we can just hand the staff to me right under their eyes. How great would that be? Gu Fei said. Great my ass. What's the use of this kind of trick? Now that I've given it to you, you'll return it to Boundless Mang Mang the next moment. How could they not think of this? Han family young master said. It's precisely so that they won't think of it, so I won't return it for now. Gu Fei said. But their line of sight will still continue to be entangled with Boundless Mang Mang. What's the use of you holding the staff? Why don't you just directly put it in the warehouse? Han family young master said. After killing Boundless Mang Mang 5, 6, 7, 8 times, they'll eventually believe that the staff isn't on her. At that time, they'll come find me. Gu Fei said. Hey hey. Boundless Mang 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 was very dissatisfied. Why was he suddenly going to be killed 5, 6, 7, 8 times? Did you see that? Han family young master spread out his hands towards Boundless Mang Mang. I only wanted to sacrifice your staff. Moreover, that's not really a sacrifice. A large amount of gold coins will go back into your pocket. This guy wants to directly sacrifice your people. He's so inhumane. Why didn't anyone stand up and beat him to death? If you sell it again, it won't be worth as much as it is now. Because no one has used it before, the value of this rare equipment is rather vague. When it first appeared, it would cause a mad scramble for it. Now that it has appeared again so soon, the price will definitely drop drastically. Those who are overly suspicious will even suspect that there's something wrong with it. Brother, you appeared out of nowhere and said with great experience. I'm just saying this out of anger. The Boundless Mang Mang was about to go crazy. What kind of people were in this circle? One was going to sacrifice his magic staff, the other was going to sacrifice his level 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the last one was going to seriously come up with a plan out of anger. You guys aren't teaming up to play with me, are you? Boundless Mang Mang really had this kind of suspicion. The three of them glanced at each other and shrugged. That's it. Jian Nan, you can look for whoever he wants. Anyway, the magic staff isn't in my hands right now. If it's stored in the auction house for a week, that brat will have to wait 10 days for the magic staff. It'll be at least half a month before I get the magic staff back. Let Jian Nan waste his energy. Disperse, disperse. Boundless Mang roared in annoyance. Too fucking ruthless. Everyone was shocked. The original plan was to store the magic staff in the auction house for a week and have Jian Nanyu wait for it. Everyone already felt that it was very inhumane. They didn't expect that Boundless Mang Mang would be even more vicious. He directly found someone who would temporarily leave the game after getting the magic staff. This way, Jian Nanyu would have to wait for the magic staff to come back online after waiting for half a month. The 7 of them might as well be like the Calabash brothers and transform into a mountain, protecting their ideal magic staff for the rest of their lives. The victim had flipped out, and the others shrunk their necks, not daring to make a sound. Seeing the vast expanse of grass, they turned and left. Lan Yi and Sakurazuka Tsukuzi hurriedly chased after them. Don't follow me. I want to see what Jian Nanyu can do. Boundless Mang was really depressed. They had just met a robber. Wasn't it just a game where you kill me, I kill you? It was a simple matter, but now it was getting more and more complicated. A bunch of people gathered together carefully. Boundless Mang couldn't bear it any longer. That's right. Why are there so many of you gathered here? Let's disperse. Slim Waist Dance also jumped out and roared. Then, she hugged Mang Mang and said, let's go play. Mang Mang nodded, and the 2 girls walked away hand in hand. Slender Dance took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to her and stuck her hand out from her shoulder to make a victory sign to Gu Fei. Gu Fei shook his head and sighed. He wanted to act cool in the vast wilderness, but in the end, he was still used as bait. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't dare to chase after him, but they were worried if they didn't. They looked like they were going to die, so the more they looked at each other, the more they looked at each other. The scene was chaotic. 100 Eras Jinglin still hadn't figured out the ins and outs of the matter. He scratched his head and asked Gu Fei for advice. What's going on? Aren't we going to PK Jian Nanyu? Why are they selling staffs? Why do they have to buy their own staffs after selling them? Why are they angry if they can't buy them back? They want to use this method to lure Jian Nanyu out. Gu Fei said. Then where is Jian Nanyu? 100 Eras Jinglin's careless action of looking around seemed to be mocking this failed plan. Perhaps it's coming out soon. The young master of the Han family suddenly said. What's your plan now? When Brother Yu asked this question, he couldn't help but feel a chill. Look at how happy everyone is right now. Han family young master looked at Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka, who seemed to be about to start fighting. Gu Fei jumped out at the right time and yelled for the 2 groups to stop fighting. If you have the time, think of a way to protect the vast wilderness. It's not like you guys haven't seen Jian Nanyu's methods. Gu Fei said. What do you have in mind, Brother Zui? Sakurazuka Tsutomo quickly came over to curry favor with Gu Fei, showing that he was the one who was closer to Gu Fei. Him. I think he and his group of brothers want to deal with Jian Nanyu. Protect the vast wilderness. Have you guys thought about this? Lan Yi said. You're right, so I'll leave the protection to you guys. Don't relax. Gu Fei said. Pfft. Lan Yi snorted and left with his brothers. This Lan Yi is very concerned about Mang Mang. The 2 of them are old friends. Have they been secretly in love for a long time? Yu Zai has a strong opponent. I told you, with Yu Zai's wretched appearance, how could he have a chance with such a good girl? The brothers of eternal life in the flower bush were all talking at once, but what they were discussing was completely unrelated to the matter at hand. However, it was clear that Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was more concerned about this matter. The more he listened, the more shocked he became. He hurriedly bid farewell to Gu Fei and quickly left. Although Lan Yi and his group were walking in the opposite direction, they had the same destination. It was only a matter of time before they met. The large group had already dispersed, leaving only Gu Fei, Han family young master, Brother Yu, and Bai Shi Jingluan. What is the plan? Brother Yu increasingly felt that Gu Fei and Han family young master were doing things step by step. They purposely made everyone quarrel and part on bad terms. Han family young master said. Huh? Brother Yu was puzzled. It's just to let Jian Nan you see that our plan is a complete failure. Han family young master said. What do you mean? But his concept of failure is different from ours. Our failure is a good thing for him. Han family young master said. You mean to let Jian Nan you think that we made a mistake and really sold the staff? Brother Yu said. Han family young master nodded. Since we failed to make it real, we can only pass off the fake as the real thing. Then Qianli's punch was also part of your plan? Brother Yu asked. Han family young master smiled bitterly. He was hinting to Gu Fei that he could Photoshop a few people to make the dispute look intense, but he didn't expect Gu Fei to punch him. I was serious. Gu Fei actually explained to him. I really wanted to beat you up for a long time. Gu Fei said. The Han clan's young master nodded. I meant what I said. Which one? Gu Fei was puzzled. He didn't remember Han family young master saying any important lines. Fuck you. Han family young master repeated. Chapter 574. Brother Yu lowered his head and pondered for a while, but he was still confused. He looked at the Han family young master and said, Can you explain in detail, clearly, and without hiding anything? Isn't it clear enough? The Han family young master was the type who would die if he didn't look down on others, not to mention that Brother Yu had delivered himself to his doorstep. Brother Yu, on the other hand, was the type who would die if he didn't know the truth. For the sake of the truth, he had no choice but to accept it. Listen, this was originally a trap, as you all know. It wasn't complicated, but it would definitely arouse the suspicion of Jian Nanyu and the others. If they suspected it was a trap, what should they do? Avoid it? In my opinion, beating them at their own game and finding an opportunity to achieve their goal is the smart way to do so. I think this is also what Jian Nanyu and the others would do. However, in the process of unraveling the trap, they would accidentally discover that it was not a trap. Perhaps it was once a trap, but in the end, due to the fact that they had sold the magic staff in the boundless wilderness, there was a variable that they could take advantage of. When he came to this realization, very well, he really fell into my trap. Therefore, it's not a big deal that Qian Li's stupid actions aroused the suspicion of Jian Nanyu and the others. The first part of this trap doesn't need to be suspected at all. It's a pity that his idiocy still allowed Boundless Mang to buy back the staff. This way, the second part can't continue. Jian Nanyu knows everything and can beat him at his own game, but we can't do anything about it. Which side are you fucking on? The Han family's young master looked down on Gu Fei as he spoke. However, Gu Fei wasn't listening to him at all. He was waving his hands and gesturing something with Bai Shijing. The Han family young master glanced at them, and his expression became more and more unsightly. Gu Fei seemed to be communicating with Bai Shijing about the punch he just threw at him. Bai Shijing had an eager expression on his face. Let them suspect first, then dispel their suspicions. So that's how it is. Brother, you listened attentively. And it's not like you're helpless right now. Now, you're pretending to be in a dispute to deceive them into believing that the staff has really been sold, right? That's right, but compared to selling the staff, this kind of lie is only a last resort. There are too many variables in the situation. Han family young master said. What about Sword Demon and the others? Brother, you didn't notice them at first, but now he realized that he hadn't seen them since leaving the auction house. I'll have them stay at the auction house and pay attention to Jian Nanyu's actions. Han family young master said. Just the three of them. Will there be any trouble? Brother Yu had participated in the fight against Jian Nanyu's team. His combat skills were ordinary, but he had good foresight. If their team didn't have an abnormally strong person like Gu Fei, they would only have a 50-50 chance of winning against Jian Nanyu's team. If it was just Sword Demon and the other two, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Yu Tian has long-range eagle vision and Sword Demon is stealthy. What's there to worry about? Han family young master said. What about Wushang? The auction house is an absolute safe zone. Oh, then do they have any news? Brother Yu asked. Why don't you ask them directly in the mercenary channel? Han family young master was clearly annoyed after saying so much. Brother Yu's thirst for knowledge was terrifying. Han family young master immediately saw him send a message in the channel. In the auction house, Flaming Jacket and Glue stayed behind after everyone else had left. After waiting for a while, they saw Unscathed in Battle appear. Their hearts raced. Of course, they weren't afraid of Unscathed in Battle, but they were afraid of the terrifying figure in Unscathed in Battle's team. Calm down, this is an absolute safe zone. The two said to themselves. Unscathed in Battle clearly understood this, so he casually walked in their direction without putting up any defenses. The two looked at each other, then looked to their side. Next to them was the NPC who would pick up the goods. Unscathed in Battle was walking in their direction. Could he be here to pick up the goods? I'm busy. In the end, Unscathed in Battle unexpectedly walked in front of the two and spoke to them in a casual tone. The two didn't know how to reply. They were immediately at a disadvantage. Don't wait anymore. The buyer of the staff won't appear today, Unscathed in Battle said. Why? Flaming Jacket blurted out because he was impulsive. He was obviously not the shrewd type. Ha ha ha, I'm actually bluffing. Maybe he will appear. You guys better wait patiently. Unscathed in Battle said. The two gritted their teeth. They hated the fact that they were in a safe zone. Where's your boss? Unscathed in Battle looked around. Where's your boss? The two asked back. My boss is me. Don't you know? Unscathed in Battle said shamelessly. We're all warriors, and we're both bosses. Help me ask him out for a duel, Unscathed in Battle said shamelessly. I don't have time for that, Flaming Jacket said. That's right. Unscathed in Battle nodded. You guys better wait here for the time being. Ha ha ha. Unscathed in Battle said. He swung his great sword and put it on his shoulder. He twisted his butt and went to look at the auction panel. He ignored the two. Flaming Jacket and Glue looked like they were suffering from internal injuries. Glue was still calm. He quickly told Jiannan about Unscathed in Battle's sudden appearance and irritating conversation. Meanwhile, Jiannan had just received news from Blackwater who tailed them. The group of people in the middle of the street suddenly quarreled and split up. Are you sure? Jiannan paid attention to the group of people because he wanted to confirm his theory through their actions. Splitting up in the middle of the street was not part of his plan. Of course. I was too far away and couldn't hear what they were talking about. But it was definitely a quarrel and they started fighting, Blackwater said confidently. Tell me the details. At first, it seemed that the priest who was with Qianli Drunk had a quarrel with the people in the middle of the street. But Qianli Drunk sided with the people in the middle of the street and knocked the guy down with one punch. They quarreled for a while, and then Mang Mang left angrily. Slim Waist Dance left with her. The rest of them quarreled for a while, and then they split into two groups and went their own ways. Only 1,000 Miles Drunk and the others were left. They seemed to be arguing about something, Blackwater reported. What's going on? Jiannan was a little confused. There's another bad news, Blackwater said. What? There's a fighter with Drunk Qianli Drunk and the others. I think he's the 100 years of experience, Blackwater said. Damn it. Jiannan couldn't help cursing. It was hard enough to deal with Qianli Drunk, and now there was the 100 years of experience. What should we do now? Blackwater asked. Who are you targeting now? Jiannan asked. Drunk Qianli drunk. Continue. Be careful. Understood. After receiving the information from both sides, Jiannan began to think about the situation with his eyebrows knitted. From the information obtained from Yi Xiaowu, he knew that this was indeed a trap set by drunk Qianli drunk to lure Jiannan and the others out. However, he didn't find any signs of an ambush when he was wandering around the auction house. Dao Xiangmu and the others who were sent out did not find any ambush at the resurrection points either. This didn't make sense. However, the buyer of the staff, Missing Man Qi, gave them an explanation. Perhaps the other party was preparing to take the staff to lure them after everything was set up. However, Jian Nanyu couldn't understand why 1,000 Miles Drunk had suddenly put on such an eye-catching show during the auction, as well as why Zhang Wushang had mocked the flaming cloak and glue. They even quarreled. Was it because of Qianli Drunk's exposed actions? Then why did he expose himself? Jiannan and the others didn't back down just because they suspected it was a trap. Just like what the Han family young master said, it was a good thing to be able to detect a trap. They had a lot of options to choose from. Jiannan made many arrangements. He stared at the auction house, paid attention to the actions of Qianli Drunk and the others, and paid attention to the locations where they needed to set up ambushes. All of this was to further understand the trap and find opportunities to continue his work. He thought he had a clear understanding of the other party's arrangements. However, Qianli Drunk's strange actions were a big mystery. Following the appearance of Unscathed in battle, Jiannan couldn't think of a reasonable explanation. Unscathed in battle seems to be wasting time with us. At that moment, Glue suddenly sent a message. Why? This guy isn't leaving. He's purposely wandering around under our noses. I don't know what he's up to. Glue was feeling a little guilty. Is he watching you? Jiannan asked. Probably. But he's so arrogant. It's annoying. Glue said. Wait. Jiannan Yu's expression suddenly changed. Is he targeting you guys or the NPC who is shipping the goods over there? What do you mean? What I mean is that he's watching you guys is the same as watching the NPC. Jiannan said. Why is he watching the NPC? Glue didn't understand. Of course it's to find out who the staff was sold to. Jiannan said. This. Isn't the staff a show that they bought themselves? Glue didn't understand. It was supposed to be a show, but what if they messed it up? Jiannan said. What did you find out? Glue hurriedly asked. First of all, Qianli Drunk appeared at such a sensitive time. There must be a reason why he appeared. His actions couldn't have been meaningless. What kind of impact did he have on the fake sale incident? A lot of people surrounded him. Glue said. That's right. Think about it again. You told me about it as a joke. This has never happened in the auction house. Jiannan said. Glue immediately understood. A lot of people couldn't get to the auction stage. You're saying that they also encountered this problem. That's why Qianli Drunk jumped out to distract a lot of people so that they could get to the auction stage. Yes. Judging from the fact that the fake sale ended before the auction ended, their people should have successfully seized the stage. However, seizing the stage doesn't mean that they succeeded in snatching it, Jian Nanyu said. Their people got into an argument after leaving the auction house. Isn't it most likely because the fake sale of the staff became real? Jiannan continued. Yes, this Unscathed in battle's appearance isn't meaningless. For Boundless Mang Mang, selling her staff for money wasn't something that she could accept, but it had nothing to do with us. That was why it was unlikely that her group would waste any more time and effort to tangle with us. She was still angry that her staff had been sold, and she knew that with us around, we would make the owner's staff drop again. Perhaps she would even feel relieved. Only Qianli Drunk and his people like to go against us. That's why Unscathed in battle appeared and said those nonsensical things to you. Jiannan said. Then what's the point of his nonsense? Glue didn't understand. Qianli drunk's exposure will make us suspicious. They know this too. With the fact that the fake sale of the staff has become real, their trap has already failed. However, they are also very vague about how much we know about the situation. That's why Zhang Wushang says that the buyer will come and then says that he won't. He's actually testing our reaction to see how much we know, Jian Nanyu said. Is that so? Glue didn't dare imagine that idiot would be so shrewd. He actually used words to test their intentions. Wasn't that just a few shameless taunts? Would the number one warrior in the game be that simple? Jiannan said solemnly. He would never underestimate his opponent. Glue wiped his sweat. He was just thinking about whether his and Flaming Cloak's reactions had sent back some sort of message to his opponent. Then why hasn't he left? Glue asked. I said it before. Because the fake sale of the staff became real, they need to understand where the staff is sold. Jiannan said. They want the staff back too. Glue was shocked. That's hard to say, but at the very least, wherever the staff appears, we'll be there. This is the same as their original intention. They just want to lure us out. Jiannan said. How tiring. Why are they so fixated on us? It's not like they've dropped any equipment. Glue said. They have, they didn't succeed. Jiannan reminded him. As expected of Jiannan, he was really confident. Glue thought. He felt that Qianli probably didn't even know that they wanted to drop his equipment. They were so insignificant that they didn't even have time to reveal their intentions before they were chased all over the place. Then what should we do now? Glue asked. We need to control the buyer of the staff. So even though their people will be there, we need to keep an eye on them. But we need to think about it carefully. If we act rashly, we'll fall into their trap. Jiannan said. Those guys, don't tell me they want to drop the staff along with us. Glue said. We can't rule out this possibility. The staff was unexpectedly sold, and Boundless Mang seems to be very angry. Looking at the situation, this idea was most likely thought up by them. Using this method to get the staff back to Boundless Mang isn't impossible. Jiannan said. That's really troublesome. With them keeping an eye on the target, how are we going to act? Glue was worried. Don't worry, there will be a chance. Chapter 575. In the Child Elite Group's mercenary channel, Han Family Young Master was also receiving messages from the three people who were scattered outside. I saw Jian Nanyu. But I lost him in a flash. He was very careful and professional. Yutian Xinming said. Yes, I understand. Han Family Young Master said. What do you mean? Yutian Xinming was furious. He really disappeared after turning around a street. Did you recognize which street it was? Han Family Young Master asked. In the end, it was Sword Demon who replied, it's not because Yutian has a bad sense of direction. Jian Nanyu is indeed difficult to deal with. I've met him before, but I lost him after a while. He was very careful and often took some detours. He should have many sets of equipment on him. This was a huge difference between the parallel world and reality. In reality, changing clothes on the street was a very eye-catching thing. It was very common in the game. Many people had 2 or 3 sets of equipment on hand. Not everyone had good-looking and exquisite equipment. Most players didn't care about their appearance in battle, but they would try their best to dress well when they were on the road or drinking. This was especially true for Imperial Divine Ming and Zhan Wushang, who loved to pick up girls. Once upon a time, Yutian Xinming actually had a set of clothes with good attributes. However, because the color didn't match, it made him look like a green onion. In the end, he sold it with tears in his eyes. If male players were like this, there was no need to mention female players. The warehouse was a wardrobe. It didn't matter if the equipment was useful or not, as long as it looked good, it would be kept. In such a realistic game environment, it was too hard for the girls to wear the same clothes for 2 weeks in a row. Jian Nanyu was like a girl who loved to look good. He didn't use the warehouse as a wardrobe. He carried a few sets of clothes with him, from head to toe. It was all because of the dangerous profession of robbing. The team of 7 split up. He was responsible for paying attention to the movements around the auction house, which was undoubtedly the most dangerous place. Jian Nanyu had made thorough preparations. He had prepared 7 sets of equipment that could be changed at any time, covering the 7 major classes. Even though he wasn't sure if he was being watched, he changed his clothes every now and then. Jian Nanyu had perfected the saying, "It is better to be safe than sorry." Yutian Shinming's evaluation wasn't wrong. Yutian Shinming was careful and professional. While he was on guard, amateurs like Sword Demon and Yutian Shinming revealed the gap between them and pro players. "Wu Shang, what about your side?" Han family young master asked Unscathed in Battle. "Those 2 grandsons are still here." Unscathed in Battle had been interacting with Lan Yi's people a lot lately. Hearing them call each other, grandson, grandson, he was also infatuated with these 2 words. "How did they react to you?" Han family young master asked. "They spat at me. If they have the guts, then don't come out. If they do, I'll kill them." Unscathed in Battle pretended to be a god. "Did you guys confirm whether or not there were any of them outside?" Han family young master asked. "Yes, I did. I didn't see any of them." Sword Demon replied. "But Jian Nanyu was sneaking around here." Yutian Shinming added. Yes, the one I met was the same," the Sword Ghost said. After all, they had the upper hand in terms of strength. They weren't like Jian Nanyu and the others who had to hide and look around openly. Oh, Han family young master was deep in thought. Brother, you naturally wouldn't let him go. He immediately asked, "How is it? This group of fellows seems to be a cut above others in terms of escaping and tracking. If my guess is correct, there might even be people watching us from the shadows." The Han family's young master said. Brother Yu immediately looked back. Gu Fei and Bai Shi Jingluan had been exchanging their martial arts experiences along the way. They didn't care about what was happening in front of them. When they heard Han family young master suddenly say that there were people watching them, the 2 of them looked back at the same time. Even if there were people watching us, they wouldn't be too close. They wouldn't be able to hear us. Gu Fei said. "How many meters can you sense?" Bai Shi Jingluan asked. "Around 10 meters. Gu Fei said. "So strong. I can only sense about 5 to 7 meters. Bai Shi Jingluan said enviously. "This varies from person to person." You see, the 2 of them went back to discussing their professional knowledge. Han family young master and brother Yu couldn't understand at all. Both parties were minding their own business. The auction hall was the only place where they intersected with each other. Unscathed in Battle didn't wander around blindly. He stood at the entrance of the auction hall with his greatsword. Half of him was outside the door, and the other half was inside the door. He looked at the 2 with an arrogant expression. His intention to threaten them was obvious. However, the 2 of them only glanced at him from time to time. They paid more attention to the players who went to pick up their goods from the NPC. Zhan Wushang was asking for a snub. Compared to when he had first arrived, the 2 of them were clearly much calmer now. There was even a hint of mockery in their eyes as they looked at Zhan Wushang. "How long do I have to stay here? What's the point of doing this?" Unscathed in Battle couldn't take it anymore. He was called to the auction house by Han family young master. When he asked what he needed to do, Han family young master told him to do whatever he wanted. Thus, he displayed his shamelessness. He came here to show off, but now he was bored. He was being looked down upon, but he couldn't do anything. There was no skill in arguing. Unscathed in battle didn't want to do this anymore. He protested to Han family young master. Can't you be a little more patient? Look at how professional they are. Han family young master said. There's 2 of them. Find me a beauty to accompany me. I'll let you know what it means to be professional. Unscathed in battle replied. Aren't there any girls in the auction house? Do whatever you want. Han family young master said. These words reminded Zhang Wushang of something. From then on, his gaze no longer lingered on those 2 fellows. He changed into a set of equipment that he felt was extremely elegant, and he started to walk around the auction house. When he saw a prey that was pleasing to the eye, he would go up and strike up a conversation without any care. Very quickly, he was rolled his eyes 3 times, but he still enjoyed it. It was as if he had suddenly found the meaning of life. Flame Jacket and Glue didn't seem to care about Unscathed in battle, but they were actually paying attention to him. After a while of being bored, he suddenly turned into a little bee that was picking flowers. He was so busy that he didn't even have the time to pay attention to the 2 of them. The 2 of them felt that the situation was very serious, so they immediately reported it to South Sword. Humph, they're still pretending, South Sword said. They're just pretending to be relaxed so that we can't figure out their trump card. Don't worry, I've already sorted out my thoughts. This was originally a trap to lure us out. However, when we were trying to take back the staff, we neglected the fact that there were too many people at the auction and there were too few auction tables. Although Qianli tried to cause chaos when he was drunk, it was obvious that he failed at the last moment. So, they got into an argument. Maybe it was because this idea came from Qianli and his gang. Maybe it was because they wanted to apologize or something, so they tried to take back the staff. However, this group of people doesn't want us to have an easy time either. They want to take advantage of our mistake and beat us at our own game. Zhang Wushang was obviously monitoring the staff's whereabouts, but he purposely said all sorts of nonsense. In fact, we don't need to pay attention to him. As long as he's still at the auction house, my deduction won't be wrong. Otherwise, why would he appear here at this time? Then what should we do? The 2 of them asked. As I said before, your mission today is to find out who has the staff. The more you know, the better. We won't do anything today. Won't they be the first to get it? First to get it? Let them go. Do you think it'll drop just because you want it to? We have to use all kinds of tricks to succeed in every mission. They only wanted to chase and kill the target. These fellows had thought this job was too simple. Let them go first, then we'll show them what it means to be a professional, South Sword said. The 2 of them calmed down and continued to pay attention to what they needed to pay attention to. They didn't pay much attention to Unscathed in battle anymore. At this time, Unscathed in battle was wholeheartedly harassing the girls in the auction house. He didn't pay attention to the 2 of them anymore. Anyway, Han family young master told him to just stay in the auction house and pay attention. He didn't have any strict orders to carry out at all. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. Glue and Flaming Cloak were professionals. They could bear the loneliness and treated this as their job. At this time, the 2 of them looked at Zhang Wushang again. This guy actually harassed the girl like a madman for 2 whole hours. What kind of shameless spirit did he have? However, the 2 of them had actually overestimated Zhang Wushang. The lady had been flirting with him for 2 hours, but none of them had succeeded. Zhang Wushang was also very discouraged at this moment. He was currently sending a message to young Master Han to ask if this matter was over. Are those 2 guys still there? Yes. Good. Looks like they've finally taken the bait. Han family young master let out a long sigh. What bait? Our plan should have been seen through by them. If that was the case, they wouldn't have wasted any more time in the auction house. They didn't care who came to collect the goods or when. They would return it to Mang Mang in the end. So it's right to find Mang Mang 7 days later. But now they're willing to waste more than 2 hours there. Looks like they've finally been tricked by us. They think the staff is no longer in our hands. That's why they're persistently waiting for a buyer. Han family young master said. Is that so? And Scathed in Battle didn't understand what Han family young master was saying. Wu Shang contributed a lot this time. Give him 50 points, Sword Demon. Han family young master said. Okay. Sword Demon replied. Ha ha ha, of course. You guys didn't see it. When I stood in the auction house, those two grandsons were scared, like grandsons. And Scathed in Battle immediately started bragging. Then what's next? Brother, you asked. Next. Get someone to go get the staff. Since they've already taken the bait, then the situation will be easier to control. Han family young master said. That's so beneficial. If only we had done this earlier. Brother, you sighed. Compared to actually selling the staff, there are too many variables. We're just lucky that we didn't run into them. Han family young master was still stubborn. Boundless Mang, who was touring White Stone City with Slender Waist Dance, was also shocked when she received the news. What? We're going to get the staff now? That's right. Jian Nanyu and the others have already fallen into my trap. If we get the staff now, we'll be able to trigger their actions. Han family young master told her. What trap? Boundless Mang was a bit confused. The young master of the Han family gave a rough explanation. Boundless Mang was inwardly shocked. As expected of the team that had once toppled their dust guild. In a situation where their plan was almost ruined, they seized the opportunity to set up another trap. Boundless Mang felt that the destruction of their guild was not unjust. But the resurrection point isn't set up yet. Boundless Mang didn't lose her ruthless temperament. Killing people once wasn't enough. Don't set it up in advance. I suspect this guy already guessed this. Paying attention to the movements around the resurrection point is part of his plan. Han family young master said. Then what do we do? Just kill them once? Boundless Mang was unwilling. Although Jian Nanyu didn't kill her staff and didn't cause any damage to her, she had already determined him as an enemy. What I mean is, don't go and arrange the arrangements in advance. This might be seen by their eyes. But when we start to make our move, we don't need to care if they know or not. We'll make the arrangements then. There are 7 of them. 2 priests and no grandmaster of combat. You can arrange the resurrection point according to the manpower. Han family young master said. Okay, I understand. Boundless Mang felt that Han family young master's arrangements were very thorough. But as soon as she told Lan Yi, she immediately became very unhappy. You still want to believe that, kid? The plan isn't bad. When Boundless Mang said this, Lan Yi was also very surprised. He even made a bold guess. Could it be that the fellow said those words on purpose at that time, to provoke a dispute and put on a show for Jian Nanyu and the others? Boundless Mang fell into silence. This was indeed the intention of Han family young master when he said those words. But he didn't deny that he was really trying to sell Boundless Mang's staff. Although Boundless Mang didn't mind it as much as Lan Yi and the others, he definitely didn't think that Han family young master was a noble person. But Lan Yi and the others were willing to understand it that way. Boundless Mang felt that it wasn't a bad thing. At least their cooperation would be smoother. He immediately replied, probably. Damn, then what are we still talking about? Hurry up and move. Lan Yi immediately went to call his brothers. Boundless Mang then told Sakurazuka Tsukuzi that they needed to deal with 6 resurrection points, and the more the merrier. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others had a super idol like Gu Fei there. Their worries were negligible. Once they heard that they were busy, they didn't waste even a minute. Finally, they personally informed the priest who bought the staff and told him to go and collect the staff now. Now? Isn't it a week from now? The kid heard Lan Yi calling everyone to gather and muttered to himself. There's a change of plans. It's more advantageous to get the staff now. Hurry up and go. Boundless Mang said. I'm outside the city, it's quite far, no problem, I'll wait for you. It's getting late, I have to go down now, play a little longer. Without you, we can't do anything with this plan. Sister Boundless Mang. Actually, I didn't get the staff. Chapter 576. What? What did you say? Boundless Mang felt dizzy when he saw the message, and he even stuttered when replying. I didn't buy the staff. Everything was difficult at the beginning. After the other party started, he sent the message quickly and didn't try to hide anymore. What's going on? Boundless Mang asked. I was optimistic about the price, but after I bid, the system said that the item didn't exist. I think I was a bit late. The priest who rushed to buy said. Why didn't you say so earlier? I think there's still a week's time. The person replied. To be able to confidently entrust this task to him, the vast Mang Mang was also very familiar with this person. As soon as he heard these words, he understood what he was planning. It was like the leader had entrusted you with a task, but you didn't complete it. Fortunately, the leader would only check on your work in a week, so you might as well say that you had completed the task and think of a way to solve it in a week. This kind of thing happened everywhere in life. Boundless Mang didn't think that he would get involved in a game. Why do you have to do this? Boundless Mang didn't know what to say. The other party had this kind of thought because he valued the staff very much. Where are you now? Boundless Mang asked. Auction house. Boundless Mang immediately understood. This guy also wanted to wait for a buyer, and then think of a way to buy it at a high price. And this transaction was naturally a very special situation. The value of the staff itself was already completely negligible. Spending money was to bear this responsibility. Boundless Mang reckoned that he would directly bring the other party to the exchange and fiercely become a RMB warrior. No need to trouble yourself. Just sell it. At this time, Boundless Mang really couldn't say any words of blame. After saying this, he turned around and sent a message to Han family young master, as you wish. Is it arranged? Han family young master asked. No, the staff was really sold. Boundless Mang said. What? Han family young master was startled. The staff, as you wish. It was really sold. Boundless Mang Mang sighed as he sent a message. He didn't know what to say about this matter. Fuck. Upon receiving the news, the Han family young master blurted out, scaring Brother Yu. What's wrong? Brother Yu quickly asked. Look, the variable is coming. The Han family young master was annoyed. What happened? The staff was really sold. The kid who bought it lied. Han family young master said. How could this be? Said Brother Yu. He probably thinks he's smart and wants to buy it back with his own money. That's why he wants to hide it from us, said the Han family young master. Brother Yu scratched his head and thought for a moment before saying, but this doesn't seem to affect us much. It's equivalent to going back to your original idea of making a fake show into reality. Then can't we just do it that way? It's not that simple. Han family young master said, let me make an example. There are two plans, A and B. Among them, A is a smokescreen for the enemy to see, to make them think that we are A, but in fact, we are carrying out B. This is the key to the whole plan. But now that A has been successfully released as a smokescreen, we can't carry out B. You mean we should treat this smokescreen A as the real plan? Can't we? Come on, boss. This plan has already been clearly conveyed to Jian Nanyu and the others. He must have thought of a targeted strategy. If we go back and carry out a now, it's fucking walking into a trap. Han family young master said. Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. Brother Yu nodded. Although the Han family young master's example of AB didn't relate to the current situation, it made the logic very clear. Moreover, Brother Yu also guessed that Han family young master's original plan could actually be said to be this kind of real and fake exchange. However, originally, A was the fake sale of the staff, while B was the real sale of the staff. Later, because the real sale failed, Han family young master instantly changed the real sale of the staff into smokescreen A, and the fake sale became the truth. Then what do we do now? Brother Yu asked. If the real sale is the truth, then this buyer is really strange. Such a high-quality equipment, isn't he in a hurry to get his hands on it? Han family young master said. You suspect that it's a trap. With Brother Yu's suspicious spirit, he was actually already suspecting that this person said he didn't buy the staff because he wanted to embezzle it. Since this guy lied once, of course I don't mind suspecting him a bit more. Han family young master said. However, to pass this kind of thing to him, he should be a very trustworthy person. Brother Yu said. It's not like she doesn't have a history of misjudging people. Han family young master said. Brother Yu of course knew that Han family young master was referring to Silvermoon. Such a big piece of trash, the power of misjudging people in the vast expanse was really quite big. Silvermoon. Han family young master suddenly said this name and frowned. What did you think of? Brother Yu hurriedly said. There are a lot of ideas. Han family young master said. Let's hear it. Brother Yu said. Version 1, this guy colluded with Jiannan Yu and the others. In reality, the whole thing went according to their expectations. With this kind of method, the vast expanse of magic staffs dropped. If that's really the case, then I have to look at them in a new light. They'll be a group of robbers with a future. However, it's a pity that Jiannan Yu and his two lackeys are still eagerly waiting at the auction house. I reckon they're still stuck at the slash and burn level of crime. They won't be able to think of such an intelligent method to drop equipment. It's such a waste of your talent that you don't become a robber. Brother Yu said from the bottom of his heart. Version 2, Silvermoon. Since they're both from the former Dust Guild, then this person is obviously old friends with Silvermoon. Therefore, it's possible that Silvermoon is pulling the strings behind the scenes. He first hired Jiannan Yu and the others to drop equipment and then used this method to easily get the staff after creating this kind of crisis. Even if he can't get the staff, he can still swindle a huge sum of money. What's even more amazing is that Jiannan Yu and the others might fail their mission because of this. It seems like they'll lose money if they fail their mission, right? TSK, with the staff, they'll lose money, killing two birds with one stone. However, isn't it too unreasonable for such a wonderful method to fall into the hands of that trash, Silvermoon? It's a waste of your talent if you don't go and cheat others. Brother Yu said from the bottom of his heart again. As for version 3, it's a sudden idea to take the staff for himself, so he made up this lie. This is probably the most a normal person can do. Han family young master said. Is it true or not? What's the attitude of the vast expanse? Brother Yu asked. Her. I think she's already chosen to believe it. Han family young master said. That's true. If she didn't believe it enough, then she wouldn't have entrusted it to this person in the first place. Brother Yu said. Could it be that this woman was born to be a tragedy? Is she going to be betrayed by someone she trusts again? Let's go to the auction house. Han family young master said. Auction house. Brother Yu was startled. That guy is at the auction house. Han family young master said. He's there. Could it be that he's looking for an opportunity to steal the staff? Brother Yu said. The vast expanse claims that he's preparing to find a buyer and buy the staff back at a high price to cover up his previous mistake. Han family young master said. Did Wu Shang find anything over there? Brother Yu suddenly asked. Do they know each other? Han family young master asked. We don't recognize him either. brother Yu said. The vast expanse will pass. The auction house was quite lively at this time. At this time, many players like Gu Fei, who had a strict schedule, were about to end their day in the game. These players didn't have much time to set up their own stalls in the players' trade area. Therefore, before they went offline, they would consign their harvest to the auction house and see if there was anything else they could buy. For a time, the auction house was bustling with activity. Players bustled about in front of the various auction control tables. Meanwhile, the NPCs selling the auction house's wares welcomed a rather tiring time of the day. Sometimes, players would form a long queue in front of the NPCs. However, the system would directly deliver the goods to the NPC without any errors. Everything was proceeding very quickly. However, Glue and Flaming Jacket were suffering. The two of them guarded the NPC and stared at the hands that were retracting at lightning speed between the players and the NPC. When they saw the staff, they were excited. However, upon closer inspection, they realized that it wasn't a staff. As this was a simulation game, appearance was very important. Therefore, any items sold in the auction would have a virtual appearance for the players to see. The two of them had already memorized the appearance of their ideal staff, but it was a pity that the staff that they had been looking forward to never appeared. The two of them were working so hard, but Unscathed in battle was the one who was infuriated. At this time, the flow of players in the auction house had increased. This bastard's hunting range had expanded, and he was once again active. He didn't pay much attention to the NPC. He would only occasionally glance at the NPC and Glue, and when he saw the two of them looking at him, a fierce expression would appear on his face. Why isn't he paying attention to the NPC? Flaming Jacket was puzzled. Even if he was putting on an act, it was still a critical moment. However, Unscathed was still not paying attention to the equipment that was being handed over. Danon was right. That bastard is putting on an act to confuse us, Glue said. But at this time, Flaming Jacket said as he continued to stare at the NPC. Look over there. Glue gently touched Flaming Jacket. Flaming Jacket looked in the direction that Glue was pointing at and saw a cleric standing there in a daze. His eyes were also fixed on the interaction between the NPC and the players. Do you see that? That guy is the one in charge of paying attention to the NPC. Do you think we won't notice a new face? How naive, Glue sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, a few players walked out from the crowd and stood in front of the NPC. The two of them were stunned. They saw the Han family young master and brother Yu in the vast forest. Why did all these people suddenly appear here? Could it be that the situation had changed? The two of them were confused. Chapter 577. Danan, there's a lot of people coming. The two immediately sent a message to Jiannan. What's wrong? Qianli, Drunk's cleric, Boundless Mang, and brother Yu, we've all seen them. Glue said. Did they see you? Jiannan asked. Probably soon. Glue and Flaming Cloak thought that the two would soon become the focus of attention and were mentally prepared. This time, they couldn't let Unscathed in battle gain the upper hand with words. As the two of them thought of this, they secretly prepared a script in their hearts, calculating some words of ridicule and disdain, eagerly waiting for the group of people to surround them. In the end, they saw a few people in a corner whispering something. They all had serious expressions and didn't even look at the two. Forget it, sell it. It's not a loss to sell it at such a high price. Boundless Mang was trying to persuade the cleric to give up on the idea of buying back the staff at all costs. This person obviously didn't have much determination. With Boundless Mang's persuasion, his heart immediately started to move. Han family young master and brother Yu quietly observed this person's words and actions. This person didn't pay much attention at first, but after a few times, he noticed that the two people beside him were staring at him. He was very surprised. Why aren't you two saying anything? Boundless Mang was also puzzled as to why the two were so taciturn. What else can we say at this point? Forget it, take the money and leave. The Han family's young master said. When the person heard this, he immediately took out a large bag of money from his pocket and handed it to Boundless Mang. Han family young master and brother Yu looked at each other. This was one of the ways they thought of to test this person. Such a large amount of cash wasn't easy to come by. In the game, there was an exchange that directly used RMB to buy and sell equipment, but there wasn't a business that allowed people to directly exchange money for gold. There was once a person who wanted to sell gold as an item in the exchange, but the system didn't accept it. Although the government had recently announced that they were considering including gold coins in the exchange, it was not yet a reality. Therefore, no matter how rich the players were in real life, they couldn't just casually convert their money into in-game gold in a few minutes. They had to resort to reselling equipment and other similar methods, which was very troublesome. Today, everyone had pooled their money together to buy the magic staff. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, they had gathered more than 30,000 gold coins. Even Slender Waist Dance had said that it was impossible for her to immediately take out so many gold coins. If this person had really taken the opportunity to embezzle the magic staff, a portion of the money should have already been transferred to Mang Mang's hands through the auction house. Yet, the fact that he was able to take out so many gold coins right now proved that he was innocent. Perhaps he has prepared beforehand. Brother, you send a private message to Han family young master. Prepare in advance. The money started to be raised at 6:00 tonight. No one knew how much money would be raised in advance, and the final price of the auction was even more unpredictable. Han family young master said. Then, if we count the money and confirm that there's no mistake, then this person will most likely be fine. Brother, you said. But look at this woman. She doesn't seem to have any intention of counting at all. Han family young master said. Just as he said, Mang took the money bag and casually threw it into his pocket. He even patted the cleric to comfort him. Now, let's call everyone to return the money. Mang said. Originally, this should have been done after the trade ended. However, the Han family young master had exposed the news and caused everyone to go their separate ways. Therefore, this matter had not been done yet. This is the same. Brother, you send a private message to Han family young master. When the money was raised, the accounts were recorded very meticulously. Now that they were returning the money one by one, they would be found out even if they were missing even a single cent. It was the same as counting the money. The Han family young master was carefully observing this guy's reaction. He found that when this guy heard that they were going to split the money now, a hint of fear flashed across his face. However, after the fear flashed by, his face was full of embarrassment. It was obvious that he had fooled everyone about buying the staff. Now that he realized that he was going to be exposed in front of everyone, it was inevitable that he would be embarrassed. Han family young master shook his head and said to Brother Yu, look at this guy's stupidly timid appearance. I don't think he's playing any tricks. Maybe he's faking it. Brother Yu was even more suspicious. He was still observing with all his might. Humph. He's just a gutless fool. Don't waste time on him. The Han family young master had already given his conclusion. What do you mean? After failing to buy it, you want to buy it back at all costs behind everyone's back. Isn't it because you don't have the courage to face your mistakes? If you really made up your mind to use this method to make up for it, why did Boundless Mang give up on this idea with just a few words? Look at his actions. He's been trying to avoid it from the start. When the money gets exposed, I think he'll be hiding under the table. After the Han family young master sent this message to Brother Yu, he immediately said to Boundless Mang, then we won't be going. We still have something to do here. Boundless Mang knew that these guys wouldn't let go of Jian Nanyu. Normally, Jian Nanyu wanted his equipment, but he didn't understand why they had such a deep grudge against him. It was obvious that it wasn't all for him. He didn't ask any more questions. He took out his money pouch and counted 200 gold coins to return to the Han family young master and brother Yu. He then grabbed the cleric and left. The cleric's face was full of unwillingness. It was just as Han family young master had said. He really didn't want to face the current situation. After sending the two away, the Han family young master turned around and waved to the other side. "Those two, come here." Glue and Fiery Jacket didn't receive the attention they had expected. They were feeling a little lonely when they saw the Han family young master turn around and wave at them. "Those two. Are you calling us?" Fiery Jacket couldn't help but reply. He was asking the other party and Glue at the same time. "Of course. Come here and run," said the Han family young master. Flaming Shirt wanted to run away, but Glue caught him and rolled her eyes at him. Huolini suddenly felt ashamed. How could he have lost his position? How embarrassing. "Come here if you have something to say." Glue was very calm and took a stand. The Han family young master and brother Yu walked over. Glue felt that he had gained the upper hand and was quite proud of himself. Of course, he didn't dare to be careless. He carefully calculated the other party's plan and how he was going to deal with it. He also actively live-streamed the situation to Jian Nanyu. "Where's Unscathed in Battle?" asked the Han family young master when he came to the front of the two. The two of them could not help but look in the same direction. Over there, Zhan Wushang had his arms crossed in front of his chest and was leaning confidently against an auction stage. He was talking to a lady who was browsing the trading panel in front of the stage. "Thanks," the Han family young master said. He and brother Yu went to find Unscathed in Battle without looking back. Glue and Fiery Jacket were petrified. That's it. That's it. Jian Nanyu was still trying to find out what the other party was doing. He came over and said something, but he was also petrified when he received Glue's live stream. "Do what you're supposed to do and don't bother with them anymore." Jian Nanyu felt that he shouldn't treat the other party's actions as a pain in the ass. Judging from Glue and Fiery Jacket's emotional fluctuations, it might be a psychological attack. The safe zone could not use force, so he could only use this trick to break the two of them down. Jian Nanyu was thinking if he should find someone to switch shifts with him. Fiery Jacket had been tortured by the other party many times, so she was very weak mentally. She would lose her soul whenever she was in a daze. Zhan Wushang was just about to bring up his name and brag to the lady about how he was able to see and hear in all directions, and how he was able to fight against multiple enemies when he suddenly heard a voice behind him. "Can you stop fucking bragging?" Unscathed in Battle immediately turned around and saw the Han family young master and brother Yu. He shook his head firmly. "Who are you?" "I don't know you." Unscathed in Battle did not want the two of them to ruin his plan to pick up the girl. He had been busy the whole night, but the girl seemed to be very interested in his bragging. When he turned around, the girl pouted and left after saying, "Bragging." She did not even know that someone was behind her, yet she was still observant and able to hear everything. "Beauty, listen to me. This is because the system restricts the killing intent of the human body in the safe zone. That's why I can't feel it. Once you step out of this door, you'll realize that what I said is true. It's true. Why don't we find a place to test it out?" "Sigh, don't go, sigh." Unscathed in Battle had short legs and no speed, but he still found a rogue girl. She disappeared after a while, and he even earned the disdain of the entire room. Everyone had heard his shouting just now, and they thought that he was really good at bullshitting. "What are you two doing here?" Unscathed in Battle was not in a good mood. He had been working hard for the whole night, and he was about to reap some rewards. These two fellows just had to come at this time, and they even had to follow him like ghosts. This was too much. "Comrades, the current situation is very serious." Han family young master did not care about his trivial matters at all. "What's wrong?" In the end, Unscathed in Battle quickly shifted his attention. It was obvious that he was used to failing at picking up girls, and he could get rid of the haze of failure in a few seconds. The staff was really sold, and the buyer has not shown up for a long time. Han family young master said. What's wrong with that? Just keep an eye on them. Do you think they can run away? Unscathed in battle said. Is that so? I'm relieved that you said that. Then keep an eye on them. Brother Yu, let's go. Han family young master said. Wait. Zhang Wushang immediately sensed that something was amiss when he saw that young Master Han was so straightforward. He hurriedly came over to stop the two of them. Following that, he pondered carefully. He won't appear for 7 days, right? You're right to be mentally prepared. Han family young master said. How can I do that? Unscathed in battle immediately panicked. Am I supposed to do nothing and just stay here for 7 days? That's why I said the situation was very serious. You were the one who said it was fine. Han family young master said. Cough. Actually, if you give me a girl, guarding for 7 days isn't a difficult thing. Unscathed in battle said. Trust me, a girl who is willing to accompany you for 7 days doesn't exist in this world. You have to be down to earth, and don't always have unrealistic fantasies. Han family young master said. Get lost. Unscathed in battle was furious. If you put it like that, then do we really have to guard here for 7 days like Jian Nanyu and the others? Brother, you said. Chapter 578. The three of them couldn't help but look at Flaming Jacket and Glue. Even though they were robbers, the two of them were conscientious and loyal comrades. They were also out on a mission. Compared to Unscathed in battle, the two of them were simply model workers. At this moment, the two of them were paying 70% of their attention to the players coming to retrieve the goods and 30% of their attention to the three of them. Their rhythm was perfectly controlled. However, when they suddenly discovered that the three of them were paying attention to them, a hint of panic flashed across their faces. Look at them, look at you guys. Han family young master didn't let go of this opportunity to teach them. Everyone was a small team, but in terms of teamwork, the child elite group couldn't compare to Wandering Swords group of 7. Everyone put the team first and didn't care about personal gains and losses. As for the young master elite group, they were all top-notch experts. None of them backed down in a fight, but when faced with such a difficult task, they were all afraid of it. No one was willing to do it. Let's not talk about these useless things. Let's talk about what we should do now. Unscathed in battle said. I don't think you guys are willing to let our people keep an eye on them, right? Han family young master said. You're willing. Unscathed in battle actually asked back. Han family young master didn't answer, but everyone's attitude was clear. The three of them weren't willing. Sword Demon and Yutian Shinming weren't willing to sacrifice a lot of time. Gu Fei didn't even have a guaranteed amount of time online. How about we rotate? Brother, you started to get creative. What's our goal in keeping an eye on them? Han family young master asked. To kill them. Brother, you replied. If they walk out right now, can you kill them? Brother, you paused and was speechless. He understood Han family young master's meaning. Not only did he have to keep an eye on them, he also had to ensure that he had enough strength to kill them. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time to keep an eye on them. Once he stepped out of the door, they might just kill him to silence him. In the end, this was the worst part. Both groups had to waste time here. However, Jian Nanyu and the rest were here for the money. They were squatting here to do their job well. There was motivation and rewards. As for the child elite group, that was in the game. He had nothing better to do than to waste time with the 7 of them. Staying here for 7 days was not only boring, but these 7 days of experience and money were all losses. No matter how he looked at it, the gains did not make up for the losses. What about your original plan? If someone really buys it, what should we do in such a situation? Brother, you asked. If this had happened normally, Lan Yi and the others would have been very angry. With their personalities, they would have been very active in trying to get the staff back, even if they had to blow up the real buyer. But now, someone has taken over this hard job for them. It's a pity that right now, their attention will probably be focused on the face melon. Boundless Mang doesn't want to make things too difficult for him. He will definitely put on an indifferent attitude and let this matter go. Actually, who would be willing to waste a lot of time on this kind of trivial matter? They can't put aside their feelings. Once Boundless Mang made a clear statement, they would definitely go find their own mothers without hesitation. Han family young master said. Brother Yuan, unscathed in battle, thought about those people's behavior. It was really like this. If this staff fell into the hands of others like this, these people would definitely use both carrot and stick to get it back. At that time, Jian Nanyu and the rest would become their competitors to get the staff back. Both sides would definitely fight to the death. Perhaps when the time came, they wouldn't even have to do anything. Right now, it was just as Han family young master said. The face melon auctioneer had changed the target of their resentment. Boundless Mang made another statement, and this matter was over for them. Why don't we give up first? Brother Yu said after a moment of hesitation. He thought about it carefully and felt that even if they gave up, they wouldn't lose anything. It could even be said that they could save a lot of time. Originally, they didn't have any deep hatred with Jian Nanyu and the rest. It wasn't as if the earth wouldn't rotate if they couldn't destroy them. This time, it was Gu Fei who called everyone over to help Boundless Mang. Now that the main character had left the matter, they were still here to fight to the death. It didn't make sense. That's a wise decision. The young master of the Han family nodded his head. Then let's leave too. Brother Yu said. It's been a long trip. After being tossed around for so long, it's really disgusting if we don't make them bleed. Han family young master said as he walked towards the two people. Brother Yuan, unscathed in battle, followed closely behind. Where's your boss? Han family young master asked as soon as he came over. The two people ignored him. Jian Nanyu had already told them to ignore these people and just do their job. Move aside. Flaming Coat said to Han family young master. There were people coming to pick up their items, and Han family young master was blocking his view. Han family young master turned around and looked at the players who were lining up to pick up their items. He extended his hand and said, "Stop." Everyone looked at him suspiciously as they continued to line up to pick up their items. No one paid attention to him. Han family young master just wanted everyone to pay attention to him. He didn't care if they listened to him or not. When he saw everyone looking at him, he immediately waved his hand and pointed at Flaming Coat and Glue. Do you see how long these two have been waiting here? Do you know who they are? They dare to pick up their items at this time. They don't even want their items anymore, right? Everyone was stunned. Glue and Flaming Coat were even more nervous. Han family young master continued, "Don't blame me for not reminding you guys, but these two are professional robbers. They are stealing items from others, and they will be targeted as soon as they go out. Think about it." "Fuck, don't slander us." Glue rushed over and roared. "That's right. Ignore him. We are not robbers. Just pick up your items." Flaming Coat chimed in. Both sides didn't have any solid evidence, but they would rather believe it than not. Some players started to hesitate after hearing Han family young master's words. It didn't matter whether Glue and Flaming Coat spoke up or not. They knew that they had to say something more convincing. Glue reacted quickly and said to Han family young master, "Even if you're joking, you shouldn't go too far." It was useless to argue at this time. After all, no one could prove whether he was a robber or not. Glue pretended to be relaxed, making it seem that he was not a stranger to the young master of the Han family, so that the crowd would think that this was just a prank between friends. This move was quite useful. Some of the players looked relieved, and some even laughed. Then, Han family young master said coldly, since they are not robbers, why does it matter to you whether they pick up their items or not? The two were stunned and thought that they had been tricked. Indeed, if it wasn't a real robbery and it was just a joke between friends, the two wouldn't have to explain anything to the others. If they didn't pick up their items after being tricked, they would only be treated as a joke. Who cared if they picked up their items or not? Only a real robber would explain himself to the others when his identity was exposed. That was why he would be so anxious that the players would stop picking up their items. The two fell into Han family young master's trap. The best explanation was that they didn't have to rush to pick up their items. Glue's plan of pretending to be a friend was also a good one, but it was too late. The players who were buying the items had already seen how anxious they were. For a moment, some of the people in the queue immediately withdrew from the queue. With one person taking the lead, others immediately followed blindly. Everyone discussed with each other, and those who were slow to react listened to the explanations of those who were quick to react. In an instant, half of the players in the queue had withdrawn. It wasn't that they didn't believe it, but they knew that what they wanted was just a normal item. How could it be targeted by the robbers? They must have been blind. The news of two robbers trampling on the items spread across the entire trading center. The two were instantly surrounded and reprimanded by a large number of players. Even if they were framed, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. Moreover, the two of them were real robbers. If it wasn't for the fact that the safe zone forbade players from coming into contact with each other, they would have been trampled to death. Han family young master stood outside the circle and looked at the angry crowd. He said to brother Yuan unscathed in battle, "Of course we can't let them have it easy, right?" "Yes, yes, yes." The two wiped their sweat. They realized that they were lucky to be in the same party as Han family young master. At least they didn't have such a monstrous opponent. His train of thought was extremely simple. He just wanted to expose the identities of those two guys who couldn't see the light of day. It was rare that he was able to convince everyone so much that they started to attack him. Glue and Flaming Jacket endured the spittle of the crowd and quickly reported the situation to Azure Sword. I was too careless." Azure Sword pinched his thigh fiercely. He would be the laughing stock of his peers if word of this got out. As a robber, a profession that was hated by both gods and gods, he actually lived under the same roof with people who knew his background. He even had a clear conscience about spying on them. Wasn't he digging his own grave? There was no place to hide in the auction house. It was already risky enough to spy on people and trade equipment. Now that there were people who knew who they were, they actually didn't realize the danger. Fuck. Azure Sword slapped himself twice. This was his dereliction of duty as the boss. Retreat. Azure Sword instructed the two of them. They didn't need to know too much about the situation to know that they definitely couldn't spy on them anymore. They would definitely be killed if they went through the main entrance. Even if Azure Sword came to rescue them, they might not be able to withstand the anger of so many people. Moreover, there was also Qianli and his gang. Fortunately, they had prepared a way to escape. It was also an idea that Glue had thought of. The Windchaser emblem. After interacting with Yi Xiaowu, Glue knew the existence of this equipment and how to obtain it. The teleportation function was really a great escape tool. However, although Azure Sword and his gang were robbers, they usually kept a low profile and were cautious. They almost never piked with others unless they were on a mission. Although they did come into contact with wanted missions, none of them had accumulated as many as 100 times. However, now that they had a goal, after working hard for one night and one day, they finally obtained 2 pieces. Then, they handed them to Flaming Jacket and Glue. Azure Sword originally thought that there would definitely be an ambush outside the auction house. The 2 people in charge of surveillance might not have the chance to escape safely. Therefore, they wanted to use the teleportation function of the Windchaser emblem to leave directly. The 2 of them also knew that it was meaningless to continue staying. As soon as they received Azuresword's order, they immediately slapped the emblem. A white light flashed, and the two of them disappeared. The teleportation was considered a function in the game and not a skill. It was not restricted in the safe zone where skills were sealed. Azuresword and his gang had already experimented with it. Where did they go? The group of players was having a great time criticizing the two criminals when they suddenly found out that the two criminals had disappeared. They were suspicious and hesitantly dispersed. However, at this time, although the two people were no longer in the auction house, the players were still traumatized. They looked at each other and felt that they were the only ones who were not suspicious. For a time, apart from those who wanted to collect the worthless items, no one stepped forward to collect the equipment. Needless to say, brother, you knew that this effect was definitely within the expectations of the Han family young master. If this matter spread out, there might not be a long-term impact, but in the short term, the players in the trading house would definitely be cautious. Needless to say, the players who had bought the ideal staff would definitely have to collect the equipment, but they would definitely be on guard when they came to collect it. Naturally, the difficulty of Azuresword and his gang's quest was greatly increased. Let's go. Han family young master noticed that some people were looking at him suspiciously. He hurriedly summoned Brother Yu and unscathed in battle and left. Imagination was scary. There was no guarantee that people would suspect that the Han family young master and his gang were colluding with the two people. After a flash of white light, Flaming Jacket and Glue saw that they were already at the White Stone City Wanted Quest office. The ferocious faces in front of them had disappeared. They could not help but let out a long sigh of relief, thinking that this wanted badge was really a treasure. The two of them accepted a quest each. Since they had nothing to do for the time being, they wanted to complete the quest first and keep the badge in a teleportation state. Where's yours? The two of them exchanged the target's serial number and coordinates. It's not that close. TSK, yours first. Glue said that their wanted quests for the entire night were carried out as a team. It was too risky to complete the quest alone. The two of them opened the door of the quest office and walked out. As soon as they stepped out, they saw two people chatting by the door under the sun. It was just a casual glance, but Glue and Flaming Jacket were petrified at the same time. They wanted to run, but they could not move as if their feet were rooted to the ground. Of course, the two people who were chatting saw them at the same time. Without saying a word, one of them punched and the other kicked. The flaming coat and Glue fell to the stone steps outside the door the next second after they caught a glimpse of each other. While one person restrained them, the other person poked his head into the door to take a look. In the end, he retracted his head and looked at the two regretfully. Why are only you two here? Where are the others? Glue and Flaming Jacket wanted to cry, but no tears came out. You've learned how to use the wind-chasing badge. You've made progress. Did you learn it after seeing me use it? Why don't you use your brains? Even I know how to use it. Do you think that you can use it to escape? Gu Fei squatted in front of them and lectured them. Cut the crap. Hurry up and kill them. 100th Era strategist was impatient. He had just asked Gu Fei a question, but these two guys suddenly appeared. He was still waiting to hear the answer. Kill them. Gu Fei waved his hand and stood up. 100th Era strategist stomped the two people to death and stepped over the white light. Go on. Chapter 579. Huolini stood in the Mage Academy of Baishur City and looked up at the sky. This wasn't Shady City, where a few fallen leaves would float down when one was feeling melancholy. Here, the air was filled with white lime, a specialty of Baishur City. Huolini stared in one direction with his eyes wide open. In the blink of an eye, his eyes were blinded by the sand, and tears fell down. Some were in pain, while others were in pain. Once upon a time, Huolini was one of the top 10 mages. Although he kept a low profile due to the special nature of his profession, he still had pride in his heart. However, the sudden attack was too fast and too fierce. In Sunset City, two fire beacon cities forced a group of experts into a corner of the valley. Huolini was still feeling proud. However, right after that, the #1 sorcerer in the parallel world, Drifting's gorgeous ice shadow spell flashed past the wall of fire, and the dazzling falling clothes red lotus exploded, forcing Drifting to hide behind Jian Nan's shield, not daring to show his face. That was when the tragedy started. After that, Linshui City fell into its own sea of fire and played a self-immolation game. Xiaowu City burned its own Blackwater City and attracted the army of 1,000 miles drunk because of that little PK value. Then, in the fog of Xiaowu City, Flaming Robe, who had almost lost his will to fight, couldn't escape the pursuit of fate. He was the first to fall under the throat of 100 generations of statecraft, who came out of nowhere and died with a grudge. That day, a boss incident happened in Xiaoyu City. Many players who died at the time received compensation, but the brothers' names were not among them. Most people would feel disheartened when a level 41 top 10 master dropped 3 levels in such a short period of time. Huolini didn't. His level was gone, but he still had his career. After avoiding Qianli's drunken army, Huolini diligently leveled up. During this period of time, he had almost returned to level 2 and was only one step away from level 40. But it was all gone in the blink of an eye. At level 38, Huolini returned to the state when he was killed 3 times in a row. At this moment, Huolini stood at the entrance of the Mage Academy, not knowing where to go. "I'm hanging up." Jian Nan received this message from Glue. "What happened?" Southblade hurriedly asked. "Qianli's drunken army and 100 Realms strategist are guarding the entrance. They knew we would use the Windchaser emblem to escape," Glue said. Jian Nan considered himself to be resourceful and meticulous in his actions. However, when it came to schemes, 1,000 Miles Drunk and his group were always one step ahead of him. He wasn't a match for the other party in terms of strength and intelligence, so what chance of victory did he have? "It's been a long day. Everyone, let's rest first." Jian Nan really didn't know what to say. From last night until now, they had not slept or rested. Their goal was to farm the Windchaser emblem. Everyone had only taken turns to rest on the table in the tavern for 2 hours. At the last moment, everyone had their own plans. They had made all the preparations for this battle to regain their confidence. However, the result was still a crushing defeat. Jian Nan wanted to say, "The battle has just begun. Everyone, don't give up." However, he couldn't write this message down. This was because even he didn't believe these words. Southblade's confidence was slowly slipping away. The members of Southblade's party, who were hiding in various corners, walked to the revival point and prepared to go offline. Dao Xiangmu coincidentally arrived at the Mage Academy and saw Flaming Robe, who couldn't even open his eyes in the wind. Dao Xiangmu didn't know what to say, so he could only pat him and go offline with a sigh. Southblade has gone offline. Although they were enemies, Brother Yu still had Southblade as a friend, so he immediately spread the news. "It can't be." Gu Fei was very disappointed. He was still waiting at the entrance of the wanted mission office, waiting to catch a big fish. Southblade was a ruthless character. He could even plot against Gu Fei at times. The first time Gu Fei sent him to prison, he borrowed the strength of the NPC soldiers. The second time, he had nothing to do with it. The third time was because of 100 Realms strategist. He hadn't been able to kill Southblade yet, so he was waiting for him. Of course, 100 Realms strategist was no exception. He honestly didn't think that he would get any rewards for killing the 2 people. After all, Southblade was the one who killed him. Now that Southblade had gone offline, there was no more business to be had. "Let's go." Seeing that there was no more fighting, the 2 warriors left for the safe zone. Only the Han family young master and the others were left to conclude the battle. Sword Ghost and Imperial Divine Ming were also quite depressed. Losing Jian and Yu once was their contribution for the day, and they had no idea what happened after that. They were just minor characters. The news from Misty Mang was that everyone was happy. Just as the young master of the Han family had expected, after Boundless Mang made it clear that he no longer cared about the magic staff, the others naturally did not say anything more. The priest who lied about buying the magic staff was inevitably scolded by Lan Yi, but in the end, the matter passed just like that. Everyone drank a few cups of wine and continued to enjoy themselves. In reality, other than Boundless Mang who had really lost the magic staff, how long could the others be sad for? Lan Yi and the others organized to level up, but Misty Mang used the excuse that he was tired and didn't want to go. Seeing that Lan Yi was rejected, Tsubasa Sakaratsuka was the happiest. After everyone left, he hopped over to Misty Mang and said, "Misty Mang, let's go do our quest." Tsubasa Sakaratsuka thought that the haze was over and that his happy life was about to begin again. "I'm tired, I want to sit here for a while." "You guys go ahead," Misty Mang said. "Then I'll accompany you," Tsubasa Sakaratsuka said. "There's no need for that, right? I'll be fine with Ashi accompanying me," Misty Mang said. Tsubasa Sakaratsuka wanted to say something, but Slender Waist Dance chopped off a corner of the table. She pulled out her purse to pay for the table and bared her teeth at Tsubasa Sakaratsuka. "Don't bother me. Go play by yourself." Tsubasa Sakaratsuka shrunk his neck. In his eyes, Slender Waist Dance was scarier than Gu Fei. This was because people who were slightly familiar with Gu Fei knew that he wouldn't be cruel to his friends. But this Slender Waist Dance was different. In her eyes, she probably didn't see Tsubasa Sakaratsuka and the others as close friends. Disobedient? The table was the end result. Didn't they already demonstrate it? Then you guys be careful. Tsubasa Sakaratsuka expressed his concern and hurriedly left with his group of brothers. She had a slender waist, a beautiful face, and a lot of money. Originally, she was the best quality girl that the brothers of the Eternal Life Flower Cluster could only dream of. But adding on the fact that she was ruthless, everyone felt that their lives were more important. When it came to picking up girls, the most important thing was to have fun, not to suffer. Apart from Brother Zue, no one can handle this kind of girl. Fireball boasted, as if Gu Fei being able to handle her meant that he was able to handle her. He led his group out of the tavern like a boss. Sigh. Seeing that everyone had left, Misty Mang finally dropped her disguise and revealed a worried expression. She fiddled with the purse in her hand, feeling quite upset. This purse was exchanged for selling the ideal magic staff. After deducting the processing fees from the system, there was still 5,623 gold, 67 silver, and 14 copper left. Being able to sell it for this price couldn't be said to be a loss. Old experts like Brother Yu only gave the ideal magic staff 2,000 to 300 gold based on the stats of normal equipment. Being able to break through such a high price was obviously because of its uniqueness and the craze to buy it. Buying this magic staff directly was actually more expensive than spending money to find someone to drop it. However, Misty Mang couldn't be happy because of this. Things that were lost were often the most memorable, especially things that were lost even though they didn't want to lose. No amount of money could make up for the difference in her heart. In order to not let everyone have a grudge, Misty Mang forced a smile for a long time. She was really tired of pretending. "What are you doing? You're not going to cry, are you?" Only girls understood the thoughts of girls. Slender Waist Dance knew that she still couldn't bear to part with the magic staff. If it was Slender Waist Dance's personality, she would have already slaughtered people who didn't know how to do things. However, Misty Mang was indeed someone who used to be a leader. Her way of doing things was completely different from her. At this moment, Slender Waist Dance moved to sit opposite her and stared at her. "You're joking." Misty Mang squeezed out a smile. "What's there to cry about? Now that we have money, let's go take a stroll on the streets." Loving to go shopping was a woman's nature. There were often women who did this to vent their emotions. Misty Mang also wanted to do this. Don't. Slender Waist Dance raised her hand to dissuade her. We can't just let it go like this. We have to get the magic staff back. I still want to take revenge. We don't even know where the magic staff is. How can we get it back? Misty Mang smiled bitterly. Aren't Jiannan and the others going to explode? When they do, we'll snatch it from their hands. Slender Waist Dance said. Misty Mang looked deeply at Slender Waist Dance. She and Slender Waist Dance couldn't be said to be very familiar with each other. It was just that among a bunch of men, they were the only two girls. Of course, they were closer. At this moment, Slender Waist Dance said these words so naturally. Her train of thought was really too simple. I'm afraid this matter isn't that simple, right? Qianli and the others have been busy with this matter. In the end, they didn't have any results. I heard that in the end, they only killed Jiannan and the other two small fries. Misty Mang said. When Glue and Flaming Cloak heard this, tears would definitely flow down their cheeks. Back then, they were also one of the top 10. Now, when people mentioned them behind their backs, they didn't even have a name. It was fine if they were small fries, but they were even called small fries. When it comes to fighting and killing, it's not a problem to rely on them. But when it comes to stealing equipment, frankly speaking, it's better to rely on Jiannan than them. Slender Waist Dance said. Misty Mang felt that it made sense. Every profession had its own specialization. Killing and robbing were actually two different things, especially robbing in the game. Killing was just a violent job, but robbing was a meticulous job that required patience. Thinking about how Qianli would play the game for 3 hours a day when he was drunk, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to do this kind of meticulous job. Then what exactly do you have in mind? Misty Mang was obviously happy to be able to get the magic staff back. However, after listening for a long time, she still didn't understand what Slender Waist Dance's plan was all about. Didn't Jiannan and the others explode the magic staff because someone asked them to? Right now, no matter who has the magic staff, they still have to explode it. How much will they pay? We'll pay double, and the magic staff that drops will belong to us. After the trade, we'll take the goods, and then we'll kill them. How great would that be? Slender Waist Dance said proudly. Misty Mang was stunned. The closer she got, the more she couldn't see her clearly. Who was this person in front of her? The #1 RMB warrior in the online gaming world. If she didn't use money at a critical moment, would she be worthy of her title? This plan was indeed the strength of a RMB warrior. If I can't get you, I'll use money to buy you. Will this work? Misty Mang hesitated. It was still the same thing. Every profession had its own specialization. When it came to using money to pave the way, Misty Mang felt that she definitely didn't have as much experience as Slender Waist Dance. No problem. They're taking such a big risk to do this, isn't it for money? The same thing for a bit more money, what reason do they have to refuse? Slender Waist Dance was full of confidence. Give it a try. Misty Mang was a bit tempted. In order to get the magic staff back, she was willing to sacrifice some money. The price of the auction this time was insane, and this amount of money was probably enough to double it. If it wasn't enough, she would probably add a bit more. In the end, the two girls immediately asked the Han family young master and found out that Jian Nanyu had already gone offline. After a bad start, Slender Waist Dance gritted her teeth and cut another table. Forget it, even if we know he's online, we won't be able to find him. Let's send him a letter. Misty Mang said. Yes. Slender Waist Dance nodded her head. They had done so much to lure out this group of people. It was obvious that it wasn't that easy to find them. Writing a letter was a safe way to contact them. She wrote a letter and sent it. Misty Mang thought about how there wasn't anyone watching the auction house. Maybe the buyer would come to get the magic staff. Maybe she could buy it back. Thinking about it, she dragged Slender Waist Dance to the auction house. In her heart, she thought that this was really ridiculous. She had just sold the magic staff for a high price, and in the blink of an eye, she wanted to buy it back. If this transaction went through, the other party would definitely think that she was an idiot. What are you guarding here for? Leave the equipment gathering to Jian Nan Yu and the others. Slender Waist Dance understood Misty Mang's intentions and yawned disapprovingly. Wouldn't it be great if I could buy it back? Misty Mang said. If you bought it back, where would I find Jian Nan Yu to take revenge? Slender Waist Dance said. Helping Misty Mang get back the magic staff was important, but for her, she had to take revenge for her own personal grudge. Misty Mang was ashamed. She had been selfish and forgot that Slender Waist Dance still had a personal grudge to take. The magic staff was just bait that she wanted to use. Forget it, your magic staff is more important. Just guard it here. If anyone dares to come and take it, I'll smash them to death with money. Slender Waist Dance said majestically. What if they don't sell it no matter what? This was Misty Mang's biggest worry. Slender Waist Dance clearly hadn't been corrupted by money to the point where she believed that money was omnipotent. She still valued this possibility. In the end, she could only sigh, then I'll just have to steal it. Hua! The players in the auction house immediately moved 10 meters away from the two of them. As soon as the two of them came in and poked at the NPC, the players in the auction house, which was full of rumors, were already suspicious. However, no one was willing to associate these two beautiful girls with something as shameless as robbery. Until Slender Waist Dance personally said that she wanted to rob them. How could they not avoid her? Motherfucker, that was close. Honey trap, too vicious. Nowadays, robbers always do these kinds of smart crimes. It's really hard to guard against. The players all thought to themselves. Chapter 580. Boundless Mang, who had accumulated rich experience in a series of anti-encirclement competitions, quickly noticed the strangeness of the surrounding crowd. In a sense, Slender Waist Dance was as arrogant as Han family young master. She didn't realize this at all. She glared at a player who was in front of the queue but didn't pick up his goods. He was looking at the two of them in a daze and shouted, "What are you looking at? Have you never seen a beauty before? Come and get your stuff." Just as she said this, she was grabbed by Boundless Mang and dragged out. Most people would subconsciously be more lenient toward these two girls. They didn't think of making a move before they understood what was going on. If it were glue and flaming clothes, they would have been scolded by the crowd. Why are you running? Slender Waist Dance had already run out, but she didn't feel anything strange. You're speaking too loudly. They think we're robbers, Boundless Mang said. Who dares? Slender Waist Dance put her hands on her hips and glared. She turned around and saw that half of the players were still looking at the two of them. Now, Slender Waist Dance could see the bewilderment in their eyes. Let's go with your plan and wait for their reply. Boundless Mang didn't want any more trouble and hurriedly pulled Slender Waist Dance away. Kennen, you didn't know how many nights he hadn't slept. Ever since he entered the parallel world, he had been making full use of the time when there were fewer players online. Today was the first time he was like a normal person, but he couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Work wasn't going his way, and his career had reached a bottleneck. This was the problem that Kennen Yu was currently struggling with. Today, the brothers didn't even say goodbye to each other when they went offline. It could be seen that everyone was really depressed. Staff. In Kennen Yu's heart and mind, he counted staff as sheep. After counting more than 1,000 times, he finally fell asleep. The next morning, when he went online, the brothers were all there. Everyone greeted each other and didn't say much. No one asked about the schedule for the day. Everything seemed very careful. Kennen Yu didn't have anything to say. He went to the mailbox at the city gate as usual. He had to check the in-game mail every day. He couldn't stay online 24 hours a day. Often, business would be delivered to him through mail when he wasn't around. He checked his mailbox every day, but that didn't mean he had business every day. He casually read a few letters, but they were all meaningless gossip. When he saw a letter from Slender Waist Dance, Jian Nan was greatly shocked. He read the letter again and again 5 times. If it was before this, receiving a business order from the number 1 RMB warrior in the game would be great news for Southbound Sword and the others. This was also the main reason why Southbound Sword and the others weren't willing to become enemies with Thin Waist Dance. Most of the people who would have business dealings with them were RMB warriors, and Slim Waist Dancer was a big customer that they dreamed of. At this time, Jian Nan you could only sigh that this letter came too late. With the current entanglement between the Slender Waist Dance and them, Jian Nan you only came to one conclusion after reading this letter 5 times, a trap, another trap to lure them out. Jian Nanyu was about to delete the letter, but he suddenly stopped at that moment. This was a trap, but it wasn't completely useless. Thinking of this, Jian Nanyu quickly gathered the others and told them in detail about Slender Waist Dance's letter. Silence. The other 6 people were like blocks of wood. After hearing the entire situation, they were expressionless and didn't say a word. It was clear that this letter didn't make them think at all. Jian Nanyu sighed and could only speak, "This letter is another trap, but we can make use of it." The 6 of them stared at Jian Nanyu with listless eyes. In my opinion, they want to use our hands to take back the staff and kill us at the same time. They want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. However, we can beat them at their own game. Jian Nanyu said. There was still no reaction. Jian Nanyu couldn't just sit there and do nothing. He looked at the 6 of them and said, "What do you guys want to say?" "Great South, you still don't want to give up." The one who spoke was Huruni. He was the one who had suffered the greatest psychological blow. "Give up? You guys want to give up?" Jian Nanyu looked at the 6 of them. The 6 of them didn't speak, but Jian Nanyu still understood what they meant. They didn't want to give up, but they didn't have confidence. They were hesitating. In fact, it was the same for Jian Nanyu. Since he fell asleep counting the magic staff last night until he woke up today to read the letter, he was originally in a hesitant state without confidence. When he saw this letter, a glimmer of hope ignited in his heart. Even if we give up, it's not the last moment yet. Jian Nanyu waved the letter in his hand at the 6 of them. What's wrong with this letter? As expected, the 6 of them didn't think at all. I've already said that they want to borrow our hands to retrieve the staff. So, before we retrieve the staff, they shouldn't cause us any more trouble. We should take this opportunity to successfully retrieve the staff first. Jian Nan said. Are you sure? Maybe they're just trying to lure us out again. Blackwater took the letter from Jian Nanyu and wanted to read it. However, she was speechless after reading it. Jian Nanyu made the situation sound complicated, but there were only a few words in the letter. Double the price, I want the staff. It was signed Slender Waist Dance. The others also read it one by one. In the end, they only had one thought, it's good to be rich. Look at the tone of the letter, it was so arrogant and domineering. Everyone couldn't help but think of how hard it would be to negotiate a deal with Silvermoon, mincing every single cent and mincing every single cent. Why didn't they get Slender Waist Dance as an excellent customer? Instead, they were fighting with her for Silvermoon. Fate really played with people. What a good girl. Everyone sighed. Normal players looked down on players with money, but Jian Nanyu and the others liked players with money the most. Even so, we still can't be sure if she's buying it or not. Glue reminded everyone. With their current situation with Slender Waist Dance, it was a bit careless to simply believe that it was a business deal. Jian Nanyu nodded, so we still need to make some necessary preparations. Then he looked at Glue and Fire Blazing Jacket, I was careless yesterday. I should have been prepared for them to wait at the wanted mission area. After all, they know about the Wind Chaser emblem. Jian Nanyu admitted his mistake to raise everyone's morale. He wanted everyone to realize that their defeat yesterday wasn't because the other party was too strong, but because of their own mistakes. In other words, if they didn't make any mistakes, then they would have a chance of winning. So we need to monitor the wanted mission area first. Jian Nanyu said. I'll go. Blackwater volunteered. With Qianli's drunk and 100 Years strategist working together, this place was the most dangerous. Blackwater, who had stealth, felt that this place was more suitable for him. Glue sighed. Originally, his long-distance surveillance was also very safe, but it was a pity that he was level 39 and didn't have Hawkeye anymore, so he couldn't do it. Then you go. Jian Nanyu said. Blackwater nodded, then I'll go now. Be careful. Everyone acted as if they were sending him to a tiger's den. They gave him their blessings and watched as Blackwater's figure disappeared around the corner of the street. What about the auction house? We don't even know if the staff has been taken. Glue said. You go to the auction house. Jian Nanyu looked at Dao Xiangmu. Oh. In theory, anyone could do the job of monitoring the auction house, but Jian Nanyu specifically chose Dao Xiangmu. There seemed to be a deeper meaning behind it. It's a little troublesome. If we keep watching like yesterday, we might not be able to. Glue thought back to the scene of being scolded by the crowd and felt a lingering fear. We can't do that anymore. Jian Nanyu nodded his head. He took out a roll of paper from his pocket and laid it on the ground. He took the paper and drew a few big words. After that, he took out a wooden board and stretched out his hand towards the glue. Glue. I said give me some glue. Jian Nanyu said. Glue wiped his sweat and took out some glue from his pocket. Jian Nanyu stuck the paper onto the wooden board and stuffed it into Dao Xiangmu's arms. Dao Xiangmu hugged the wooden board and sweated profusely. Do we have to do this? On the wooden board, there were 7 words, looking to buy the ideal staff. Jian Nanyu nodded, this way, no one will suspect you. Dao Xiangmu finally understood why Jian Nanyu wanted him to do this job. Of course, a priest was the most reasonable choice to purchase this staff. Although their party had 2 priests, the other priest, Lin Sensen, was an extremely honest fellow. He was the type of person who wouldn't say a single word even if he was hit with a stick. This kind of thing that attracted attention in public was probably more painful than death for him. Sometimes, Ken Nam Yu and the others were surprised. Why would such an honest fellow engage in such evil robbery like them? Take the wind-chasing emblem and accept a mission. We'll help you complete it. Jian Nanyu said. Okay. Dao Xiangmu nodded. Are there any other questions? Jian Nanyu asked. Can I cover my face? No, it's easy to arouse suspicion. Covering one's face would inevitably make people think that they were doing something shameful. Hence, when it came to such matters, not covering one's face was a necessary choice. For example, Glue and Flame Cloak did not cover their faces yesterday. No problem. Dao Xiangmu only felt that it was a little stupid to hold up the wooden board. He was too ashamed to see anyone, so he wanted to cover his face. You'll be the only one going to the auction house. The rest of you do the same as yesterday. Pay attention to your revival points and prepare your equipment. Jian Nanyu said. The other 4 nodded. Then let's help Dao Xiangmu complete a wanted mission first, then we'll start. Jian Nanyu announced. Dao Xiangmu sighed and placed the wooden board back into his pocket. He took the wind-chasing emblem from Glue and wore it. He then went to the wanted mission office to accept a mission. About half an hour later, White Stone City's auction house had a performance art. An expressionless priest was holding up a board in the auction house, looking to buy the ideal staff. Chapter 581. Whitestone City's auction house had been restless for the past 2 days, and many people had heard about it. Yesterday, there was an unprecedented buying frenzy, followed by the appearance of 2 robbers. Following that, it was said that there were 2 beautiful ladies who were suspected to be robbers in the middle of the night. Many people were still regretting that they had missed out on a good show. In the end, a performance artist suddenly appeared in the auction house early in the morning. There was no private chat channel in the parallel world that could be seen by everyone with a shout. Therefore, it was slightly inconvenient to do business. However, it was also because of this that the game's offline trading forum was unusually popular. Players from all over the game would appear there when they wanted to buy or sell anything. There were countless trading forums, but it was still popular. In fact, it was quite surprising for an exquisite piece of equipment like the Boundless Ideal Staff to appear in the auction house. It was also common for such an exquisite item to be listed in the trade board to be promoted to the world. In the end, just as the Ideal Staff was sold in the auction house, another man immediately appeared in the auction house to buy it. Such a creative and targeted idea immediately attracted a lot of attention. "Brother, aren't you tired of doing this?" Someone even came up to interview him. "It's all right." Dao Xiangmu did not want to be distracted, so he stared at the place where the item was being sold and casually answered the interview. Everyone could clearly see where he was looking at. This time, no one suspected that he was a robber. They all laughed and said, "Brother, you're really considerate. You want to buy the staff from the person who bought the ideal one yesterday?" Dao Xiangmu nodded. "Speaking of which, I also heard that the person who bought the staff yesterday didn't come to collect the staff after the auction ended." Someone said. "So, he still hasn't come? Who knows?" As the players discussed, they gave Dao Xiangmu a thumbs up. Dao Xiangmu could only smile bitterly. No matter what, Konami's strategy was extremely successful. He used such a method to attract everyone's attention. Instead, it gave everyone a preconceived idea and no longer suspected that Dao Xiangmu had other motives. In contrast, the others were having an easy time. Whether it was the wanted mission office or the resurrection points in the safety zones, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Kenan thought hard for a long time to see if this could explain anything. After inadvertently glancing at his friends list, he finally realized that most players had not woken up yet. He tried adding Thin Waist Dance as a friend, and sure enough, she wasn't online yet. Jian Nanyu replied to her letter. In the letter, he agreed to her request in all seriousness and told her how much the double reward would be, how long it would take to complete the mission, and the deposit. Jian Nanyu felt that if he wanted to put on an act, he had to go all the way. Since he was going to pretend to be hooked, he had to act as himself. It would be unreasonable if he didn't ask for a deposit. After adding Slim Waist Dance, Jian Nan tried all the names he knew, such as Drunk Qianli and 100 Eras of Wisdom, but none of them were online. This wasn't the time when most players were online, but because of this, there was a chance that the buyer, who had been hiding all this time, would show up at this time. Jian Nan had also been trying to figure out why this strange buyer had not shown up for a long time. He put himself in his shoes and felt that the other party was worried about being targeted by the robbers. That was why he was so cautious. If that was the case, it was highly likely that he would show up when there were fewer people. Jian Nanyu reminded Dao Xiangmu to be more careful. Dao Xiangmu was having a headache from being stared at by so many people. He felt that most of the players who came to the auction house early in the morning weren't here to buy or sell, but to see him. Dao Xiangmu decided to deal with the situation by staying the same. Facing all the onlookers, he held his sign up high and didn't move. In the afternoon, Jian Nanyu suddenly received a notification of a new mail. He immediately went to his mailbox and looked at the sender. As expected, it was Slim Waist Dance. He couldn't wait to read the content. In the end, Jian Nanyu's meticulous reply was only one word, "Okay." There was also a deposit of 1,500 gold that Jian Nanyu had requested. What a great customer! Jian Nanyu couldn't help but sigh. There was no haggling, No purposely making things difficult for her, no hesitation, just one word, okay, a deposit, simple and direct. Jian Nanyu didn't want to believe that this was a trap. He really hoped that they were working for Slim Waist Dance. Jian Nanyu imitated Slim Waist Dance's manner and replied with a okay. He was a little disappointed and hoped that Slim Waist Dance would reply again. Even though he knew it was impossible, Jian Nanyu still imagined the beautiful scene where Slim Waist Dance would bury the hatchet and become their top customer. Sigh. Just as he was sighing, he suddenly received a message from Glu, Danan. Silvermoon sent a message asking about the magic staff. Tell him to go die. Jian Nanyu wasn't in a good mood. Why were beautiful things always illusions, but reality was all trash? Glu was probably in Jian Nanyu's bad mood, so he was silent for a while before asking, really? Tell him that you'll contact him when the magic staff drops. It's not like it's past the appointed date, why would he ask every day? Jian Nanyu said. Oh, just as Glu sent the message, Dao Xiangmu came again and said, Danan, this can't go on. If the buyer only appears at the end, I won't be able to hold up the sign for 7 days. Of course, Jian Nanyu wouldn't treat his brother as badly as he treated Silvermoon. He immediately explained, of course we won't make you hold it up for 7 days. You being there now is just the beginning. This way, we can hold it up for you at any time. The players will naturally think that we're helping you buy the magic staff. Won't all their suspicions be cleared? If we really waste 7 days like this, then we'll lose a lot of money for this quest. Dao Xiangmu said. There's no other way. Before the quest, no one knew what would happen. The situation this time is complicated, so we can only say that we're unlucky. Now that there's a chance, if we really make you pay that trash Silvermoon double the deposit, then we'll lose even more money. Jian Nanyu said. How about this, I'll hold up the sign here and you guys don't need to worry about anything else. Do whatever you need to do and don't waste everyone's time here. Isn't Qianli going to cause a ruckus when he's drunk? Let's just stake it all on one throw. After we find out where the magic staff is, we'll gather and do what we need to do. What do you think? Dao Xiangmu said. Jian Nanyu thought about it and felt that it made sense. He nodded his head and told the others about it. Other than Dao Xiangmu, everyone else went to level up. If they didn't even level up and just squatted around for a week, their losses would be too great. On Slender Waist Dance's side, she received Jian Nanyu's reply when she logged on. Double the price, time needed, deposit, everything was clear. Actually, it was impossible for Slender Waist Dance to say that she hadn't dealt with this kind of person before. Although she had a lot of money, money didn't represent her character. None of the equipment and skill scrolls she had on her body were obtained through luck. They were all bought with money. As for which of these sellers were honest players, which were despicable scammers, and which were bandits like Jian Nanyu, she naturally didn't care. Perhaps one of the items on her body was stolen goods. She had seen a business letter like Jian Nanyu's before, so she wasn't surprised at all. She happily replied Jian Nanyu's letter and paid the deposit. Slender Waist Dance then took the letter and went to look for Vast Mang. See, I told you it was easy to hook. Slender Waist Dance slapped the letter for Vast Mang to see. Mang, who was in a daze, read the letter carefully 3 times. This was all Jian Nanyu's performance. Naturally, there were no loopholes in the letter. However, Jian Nanyu agreed so readily that she could not help but have some doubts. You already paid the deposit? Vast Mang asked as she poked at the 1,500 gold deposit. Jian Nanyu's letter said that if the reward was double, the quest would be 8,000 gold, so she needed 1,500 gold as a deposit. Aren't you afraid that he's just trying to scam you out of money? Vast Mang felt that Slender Waist Dance's wariness was too low. No, after I received the letter, I went to the auction house to take a look. Guess what? One of their clerics was holding up a sign saying, buying ideal magic staff. They were just waiting for the magic staff to appear. I saw that they were doing something, so I sent him the money. Slender Waist Dance said. Is it really that simple? Vast Mang felt that things were going too smoothly. That's right, I have to tell those guys not to cause trouble for now. Right now, they're helping us get the magic staff. Slender Waist Dance didn't think too much. Just as Jian Nanyu expected, she paved the way for them and went to find the Han family young master. Jian Nanyu's reply was caught by the Han family young master and tossed to the side. Beside him, Brother Yu immediately picked it up and studied it carefully. Double the price is 8,000 gold, so the original price is 4,000 gold. The normal price for an ideal magic staff is 2,000 gold, which means that their manpower cost is 2,000 gold. There are a total of 7 people, so on average, it's less than 300 gold per person. However, the quest duration is estimated to be 10 to 15 days. Is there a relationship between the amount of money they charge and the duration? This ratio, under everyone's sidelong gaze, Brother Yu's voice gradually became softer and softer. Finally, he picked up his small notebook and silently went to a corner to calculate. What do you mean? Han family young master then asked about the matter at hand. I'll pay double the price for them to give me the magic staff that they get. Don't cause trouble for now. Slender Waist Dance said. It was originally a very annoying thing to speak in a rich and imposing manner, but for some reason, when it came to Slender Waist Dance, everyone felt that it was so peaceful and natural. It seemed that reputation was really a terrible thing. Everyone had subconsciously thought that this kind of temperament and Slender Waist Dance were natural. If it was not so, everyone would feel uncomfortable all over. This is troublesome, we have to use a pipe. Han family young master said. In addition, the 100-generation strategist is the hatchet man you hired. Of course, your words are effective, but that guy Qianli has a strong interest in chopping Jian Nanyu. I don't know if he will listen to your arrangements. He dares not to listen. Slender Waist Dance shouted. Of course he dares. Han family young master laughed. Butterfly Knot, I haven't been in a good state of writing these 2 days, but when I saw the post in the book review section today, I noticed that the book has really written 2 million words. Congratulations to yourself, you're too ruthless. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.